God damn. Just end me. Another noise, please.
Okay, so I'm drinking water. It's pretty good. It's the end of the world. We're all going to die from the virus that was started in Corona. Is this good? Is this enough? It's deteriorating the more.
Started in Corona.
Are we gonna have like a Raid Shadow Legends ad?
Oh my
Ad
fucking
break?
god. If I could get sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends, I don't even know anything about that game, but I see the ads for it all the fucking time.
I think it's an RPG. I'm not sure.
It's like a phone RPG.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't play games on mobile really, so it's not
it's
really
got
my
to be
world.
successful because of all of the ad money they have to pay for all of the like promotions.
Oh
So
yeah, for
it's
sure.
got to be at least or like addictive or something.
Something. Eh. But
Yeah.
yeah,
All right.
here, let's have a starting noise. Starting noise. Cat treats. Yay. Okay. There, we did our bit.
The bit has been done. Let's see. I think whenever I ask the questions, I'll do them. And I'll say who asked them, like who the questions are from,
Mm-hmm. And
just
maybe
so
like
everybody
switch
gets
between
credit.
them. Maybe switch between it so we don't do like all of Joe's at one time or all of Maltese at the same time. Just kind of like switch between them. Whichever
If
one
we're gonna do
catches your
that,
eye.
can I have edit access to the document so I can keep
Oh,
track of
yeah,
what
yeah,
I've
yeah.
asked?
Yeah. Hold on one sec. Let me hop over to that. Da, 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 da. Okay, how do I allow you?
I can request edit access.
Ooh, yeah, do that. That'll be easier. Knowing me, I'll just probably send you the link to unlock my Google account, and I'll be like, "Oh, well, classic me."
Whoops. Saw now has control over every single thing that I own. It's gonna freeze all my assets. Have I? Yes, I have.
Oh, where the fuck do I see it
I don't know. Check your or something.
at? I don't know. Check your email. Let's see. Maybe that's not it. Okay. Here, we'll just do this the old-fashioned way. We'll just do this. I'll make a new link, copy it, and paste it in, and then you will have power.
I have all of the power.
All the power.
Okay.
An anonymous manatee.
It's me. I never thought I'd be a manatee though. That's kind of
Yeah,
insulting.
that's. I don't know. Manatees are kind of cool.
They can be cool.
If like they stay in the water, like once they get up onto land and it becomes like walrus territory, it's like, well, now you're just a discount walrus as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you're missing the teeth, you're missing like the big like cat face like
I
shit that
think
they go on.
I'm slowly realizing that I don't think I know what a manatee is.
They're like hold on.
I'm gonna have to Google image what a manatee is.
I mean, we have a lot of them down here in the south.
They look like a weird cross between a hippo and a walrus.
Yeah, they're really odd, honestly, because I think they're mammals.
Yes, they are,
Marine
and
mammals.
they're known as sea cows.
Oh my god.
They are called sea cows.
Oh man,
I
that's
don't know why. This one, I'm gonna send you the picture. The
okay.
one picture it gave me, it reminds me of a platypus in a way.
Yes. My god. Like
That's
if
so
his
weird.
lips were like a bill,
Yeah,
platypus.
it would look like a weird cross between a walrus and a platypus. And platypi are weird enough as it is.
Oh, for sure. Like
They
when I was a kid, I didn't even think they really existed. I thought they were just kind of made up.
Yeah, like jackalopes.
You know, okay. We're probably gonna have to include this little
Oh
part
yeah.
in, but you know what animal that I never thought actually existed, but I figured out only recently that really do exist?
What?
Narwhals. I didn't know.
Narwhals are pretty weird.
I didn't know they really existed. I thought it was just some stupid like, oh, just throw a horn on a sperm whale and call it a day. But no, like they're
No,
real.
narwhals aren't just real. They're terrifying.
They're
Like
scary, man.
it's the weirdest thing is the fact that their horn isn't even technically a horn; it's a tooth.
Oh
Like,
God.
but like by the definition of like what those words mean, it's technically a tooth.
Oh
Is,
Lord.
isn't
That's
that just the most
awful.
unsettling thing you've ever heard?
It really is, because like also the way they move underwater, like if you ever watch those National Geographic or whatever, Planet Earth, Blue
Yeah,
Planet or whatever, it'll show them like moving underwater, and it's like they kind of have a couple of really fast like movements, but that long ass
yeah,
horn is moving just as quickly. Sort of like how if you have like, I don't know, like a laser pointer and you start waving it around, you're like, oh, it's moving around a lot more than I think it should. Like it's that kind of
yeah.
feeling. I'm not sure if that's
And
if
like
that translates well for
they
my mind.
they can move pretty fast too. So just they turned themselves into torpedoes.
Yeah. I really
It's
don't like I am
pretty
already
terrifying.
terrified of the ocean, like open ocean, all that kind of shit. But like that would just be the out. All right, I'm done. That's it. I have to see
Okay,
a narwhal underwater.
imagine like the horn to body ratio of a narwhal, but apply that to a unicorn. That
I feel like that doesn't work on land. Like I feel like the only reason it can have a horn that long or a tooth is because it's underwater. Because it doesn't have to hold it up the same way, you know? Like on here,
yeah.
like that's why a lot of the horns for like mammals on ground are vertical because it the weight distributes it even more evenly. That's why moose are so cool because their horns are so like fucking wide. It's very odd, but
Did you know that like I heard somewhere that
moose.
mooses oh moose
Yeah, it's just moose.
just moose just the one. Apparently they're almost aquatic creatures, and they like apparently they can hold their breath for like a stupid long time, and their main predator is like crocodile. I I'm gonna have to look this up. I might be spouting nonsense.
I think you're spouting nonsense because crocodiles don't even live in the same area as moose do, as far as I'm
Let's.
aware.
I might. Whoever told me this must have been lying. Oh, oh no, it's not crocodile. It's even worse. It's orcas.
Oh God,
Orcas are a natural predator of meese.
that sounds like a very
That's
scary
actually real.
Canadian thing.
Oh man, no, that's real.
Oh God,
Yeah, the moose will go out into the water, and the orcas will just go and kill him.
wow, that's really unsettling.
Why? Why did we make this call again?
Oh yeah, we're gonna do an interview. Or it's
Uh,
not even really an interview. Well, I guess it is an interview now because you're here. Um,
it is.
but let's go
It's
ahead
like
and
an
introduce
interview podcast
ourselves.
thing.
Yeah, let's introduce ourselves so that people passively listening that don't know who we are know who we are.
Yeah.
Me, I with the clearer, more beautiful sounding mic and GrimWax.
Okay.
Just completely shut down your laptop mic.
I am Saw. That's me.
Yep, that's Saw. I was originally going to do this video by myself, and I did do this video by myself, except I fucked it up. So now we're here to do it for real, and Saw's here too to help make it a better experience to listen
It's
to.
going to be an actual interview instead of
me
like,
rambling about bullshit.
yeah, someone's got to keep this guy in check.
I mean, honestly, for real though, because I just start rambling. So you're gonna have to practice reining me in.
I'll try. I'll do my best.
I will deviate off the path so quickly. I might even not answer your question initially. I might just be like, that's a neat question, but I'm gonna answer something else now. So you have to be on your toes.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. So we've got
first question.
We've got a lot of questions here from a lot of different people on the Wax server. I have the most questions. That's why I was given this beautiful role of actually interviewing him. But I'm going to start with something from Joe Dim, which is, where do you get your inspiration from?
Okay. So it's a complicated question because I think that when people ask this question, they're hoping for a certain kind of answer, right? Like, I know for me, a lot of my inspiration comes from all different types of media outside of music. I try to pull like how I think about writing music from other sources. Like, I don't like to stay in the same realm of thinking because I feel like that just gets me thrown to a wall too quickly. So like a lot of my inspiration comes from like anime will be a huge inspiration for me. Like a certain show will hit me just right and I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. I want to do that kind of thing. So like shows like that are pretty influential for like the GrimWax thing specifically are shows like Mononoke. Not Princess Mononoke, but just Mononoke about the witch doctor guy. That one's really good. It's a horror show. Sort of like a horror mystery thing. And Angel's Egg is another really, 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 really huge inspiration for me, just because of the weird, dark, kind of abstract vibe it has. And I like to think that some of the songs that I make that I really like kind of focus in on that abstract horror kind of thing. Like Wings is one of my latest favorite songs I've done because it's so
Wings
weird.
was great, by the way.
Thank you. With that one, the kind of idea with it was I was messing with an LFO on Serum, and I really like polymeters and I really like polyrhythms and like just combining rhythms that shouldn't work. So something I was trying to do was to layer different types of different shapes and speeds of LFOs on a single modulator. So I did it for like the cutoff to make the simple like wub or whatever it was. But then I layered another LFO on top of it that was a bit weaker, but it would oscillate at like half the speed of the first one. So you would get this slow, like pulsating rhythm with the chords as it went along. And they weren't sharp. It wasn't like, plucky kind of sounds. It was all very whooshy.
You added some attack.
Yeah, exactly. And whenever I had just made that one single note, I was like, whoa, this it sounds like a bird flapping its wings. So I was like, all right, that's it. That's what it's gonna be. And so I built that entire intro based around the idea that it just kind of sounds like you're hearing this really, really, really big, scary bird coming in from the distance. And it gets closer and closer, and the closer
it gives it a lot of perspective.
Yeah, and I like to have. There's a couple of songs I have that kind of depth to it. Like, I'm not saying all of my tracks are super fucking well thought out like that, but Another one that's similar to that kind of idea was an old one I did called Cubicle Nightmares. Not sure, not a lot of people listen to that one, but it's kind of funny how I came about writing that one, because it was just like I had this idea of a music video and of this guy working in a cubicle, and he just was getting so tired of his life working in a cubicle. He just and he was working so hard, he was working really late, and he eventually like had dozed off into sleep during work, and he woke up in a nightmare around based around his cubicle, and he's like getting hunted down by a bunch of shit, and he just kind of goes through these episodes of dealing with these weird nightmarish phenomena that are happening. And that's like that was
Yeah.
like the entire like Cubicle Nightmares would have been a way cooler song if I actually had a video for it, because I had this entire thing written out for it. But when you listen to it, it's just kind of this techno electro thing, I guess,
Yeah.
with like horror vibe to it.
I mean, yeah, most songs are cooler whenever you put them in the context of a music video.
Yeah.
That's just a thing that applies to all of them.
I don't know.
And
There's some songs that I'll say that are should just probably not have a
yeah,
video.
like a main like thing that comes to mind with that is like, imagine if Stroke, like by Dead Mouse, had a music video.
Yeah, I don't know how I'd feel about that, because like it's
It
such
wouldn't.
a
It wouldn't.
ethereal thing.
It To have anything to impose a visual upon it would do the track a disservice,
Yeah.
because like part of the big thing about it is it makes you think of things.
Mhm. Right.
It's it's really really good.
It's an entire journey, really, you know. That's why that track is so cool, because it's like how often do you get to have a track that unique hit like the mainstream dance scene, you know, and be so popular?
Yeah, it it was really like a huge thing, because suddenly this track, and that just was so, like you said, ethereal and just amazing, like that, got so popular that like jazz bands were doing covers of it.
Yeah. Alright. But I hope okay. So we had an original question, which was how do I get my inspiration, which I think I answered pretty
Yeah,
well. I get it from other media. Is the long short of it. I try not to let what music is right now affect what I'm writing, because I like to think about things a lot more abstract of a way. I feel like it's more creative that way, at least for me.
yeah,
I feel like if I start trying to I used to keep up to date, but I don't much anymore. People are like, "Oh, have you heard of artist X that had a new album this year?" I'm like, "No, I haven't," because I've been listening to
yeah,
like everything except electronic music, for like the past 4 years. But um, yeah,
yeah. All right. Next question. We're gonna go down the list to one from Silhouette,
okay.
which is, where did you get your name from, and what was the inspiration for it?
So, let's couple this, because I know there's also a question in there that I think you had, which was other names I went by. Um, I'm gonna couple that with this one, because
Okay.
I've gone through a lot of names, but my name making process has been almost the same no matter what name I've had. So GrimWax came from um, me looking at what kind of music I had initially started writing whenever I started making electronic music. And the first music I ever wrote was just dubstep. It was just dubstep, but it all had a horror vibe to it, because I had based all of my tracks around Lavender Town by
Interesting.
from so it all had that dark.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. And all of the like types of melodies and stuff I would write would be based around that vibe. I didn't know any theory when I started out, but I was going for a vibe. And so a lot of my really, really, really early dubstep tracks are based around Lavender Town, kind of more or less. Um, so whenever, just before GrimWax, I was Jukeplox. And
Yeah, I remember jukebox actually.
do you really? I forget how
I
long I've been
I
GrimWax
do
for.
because I do. I don't. I didn't know you then, but whenever I first came into the Wax server, I went down your SoundCloud and I listened to just any track name that I saw that looked interesting,
Oh yeah.
just to get a feeling of what I was dealing with coming into this. And I I can't remember, was three. Do you remember three?
Yes, I do.
What name was that under?
I'm pretty sure that was under Juke because it had the I'm pretty sure the original SoundCloud picture for that is the blue and white like alien mask looking thing, I think. Or no, maybe I changed it to the diamond one by then.
I must have missed it.
I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure 3 was under Jukebox though.
Yeah, that's how I remember that name.
Yeah. But so I before Jukebox, and I'm gonna circle this back around once I go down the line. Um,
Hmm.
Jukebox. Before that, I was Metastaphia. And not a lot of people know of that one. Um, it's a
It's a mouthful, but it's a
it
good
really
name.
is. It's a mix of Greek and Latin, meaning to create balance through change. It was really elegant, really
Wow.
cool. Nobody could pronounce it though, so I changed it to something that's even harder to pronounce but easier to conceivably look at, which is Jukeplox. Um, but the first name I ever had was Zero Gravity. That I had that whenever that was the very first name I had. I made
That
logos and
does
everything.
sound that does sound like a dubstep name.
Oh yeah, for sure. But the reason I stopped doing that was because I had I'd never made a name for an artist before, so I was like, well, what other bands are called Zero Gravity? So I googled it and there was some like boy band from Germany called Zero Gravity. I'm like, no, we're not being associated with
Uh,
that. No. So I don't
Man, if I ever get an interview on this, my naming story will include one of those with my old name because there was literally like a hardcore electro artist called Aggressive Electron X. Just
really?
so yes, really.
Wow.
And they had released like a bunch of albums in like the
Ah.
2000s and early like 2010s. And I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Oh my
I
god,
mean,
wow.
it actually got to the point where I had a bigger following than them on like
Oh
SoundCloud,
no.
and I really felt bad
Oh
because
man.
I didn't think they were still active at all because they hadn't posted anything in like 6 years.
Yeah.
But it's still to just like usurp someone's name like that. It
Yeah.
just didn't feel right.
Yeah.
So I switched to a much more meaningful name. But this isn't my interview. I'm gonna
We'll
go on to
have
the
yours
next
next. I have
next question.
we have a couple lined up, but we'll get yours in for the next one. Hold on, I'm getting seated in a more comfortable position. I hope my mic isn't making a bunch of fucking whack ass noises. Um
No, you're good. I haven't heard.
oh okay, good. So before Jukeplox, there's actually one before Jukeplox, but after Metasaphia, which was Osk.
Ask.
It was OZQ something. I think it was just OZQU. And I was making what was I making under that name? I think I was that was my hardcore name. I was making hardcore, speedcore, terrorcore, splittercore.
Wow.
I was making a lot of shit under that name.
I didn't
Um,
even know that you like had that
yeah,
like in you.
dude, you would be surprised at the fucking genres I've done. Um, but uh, I don't even think any of that is available online anymore. I think all of that I had taken down. And it's by far way long gone now. I don't think
Yeah.
I own any of that music anymore. But yeah, I was making a lot of hardcore stuff under that name. Metastaphia, which is the one that's actually before that, was mainly dubstep, but it was kind of more of an experimental. That's when I first started getting into experimental music, was when I was under
Yeah.
Metastaphia. Um,
It's an experimental name.
yeah, you know, it's experimental to try to figure out how to pronounce it too. So, but I got to a point with all of that whenever I was just like, you know, I want people to be able to like I really want people to connect with what I do, you know. So I didn't want to have my name be something that would create a distance between me and other people. And that's
Yeah.
why I really started to focus on GrimWax, because you look at it, you understand it, it makes sense, it's kind of catchy, and it has this candle thing going on. So
And that's
um
the interesting thing that like really drew me into your early on sort of branding was the and specifically your like MS Paint backgrounds that you were doing at the
oh yeah.
time.
Those are
All of
really
this
fun.
stuff, it all just came together in like an interesting way because it was just like a relatability to it, you
Oh,
know?
thank you.
It
Yeah, because
was
that's
it wasn't like a complex thing. It was something, and it wasn't even the art was actually good too.
oh,
It was the
shit.
fact that it was an MS Paint that made it relatable because it's this guy is using the same stuff that any of us could have done for this, but he's still making it good.
You know,
And there's
and
something very special for that.
I'm really glad you said that, because that's a huge thing that I work on. Because I don't, people ask me a lot of times, like, you know, do I have like special templates that I use? What's my stance on like presets? What's all of my, how do I do things and whatever? But my theory on how I make music is that if I want to be able to, I want the concept of the song to be the focal point. I don't want it to be the particular sound. I don't want it to be the particular whatever
For
sound
sure.
effect that's in it. I want it to be the process, and I want it to be the concept of the song that's the unique part. So, like, if I can't make the song unique just by opening FL and starting to work on it, then I usually don't finish it, because like I don't save presets really. I don't save sounds. I don't bounce them out really. I always work from fresh. So like I always try to like, and it's, you know, it used to be a pride thing and it still is a little bit, but at this point it's more
No
of
shame
just,
in that.
what's that?
No shame. There's no shame in being a little bit proud of your work, you know?
Yeah, you
It's
know,
a good thing.
and the biggest thing for me is that I just feel like that's the only way I can make something that's really unique that I'm happy with at the end of the day. Because, you know, I could sit down like and just like, particularly specifically actually with electronic music. If I'm making other types of music, like when I'm making like background music, or whenever I'm writing like the happy disco stuff, I'll just grab presets and go all day long, because it's like the part that I'm
It's
selling.
just fun.
Yeah, you know, and it's more about the chord progressions and the melody and the composition, as opposed to the the sounds being as unique as possible. I'd rather have the right sounds in there that people can listen to and understand what they are, than to have some whack ass sounds that distract you from like the chord progressions and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
but yes, so see, we got We get really sidetracked, but there's all good stuff.
We do. It's all good material though.
It
But
is.
I have determined though, because this is gonna take a hot sec.
Yeah.
When we get, I'm gonna save like all of my questions to the end, and we'll do a lightning round of those.
Okay. Okay. That
All
sounds
right,
fun. Um,
let's go to Ara's
oh, real
question, which
quick,
is
real quick, before we do that, just a quick
okay.
thing is how I developed the name GrimWax. I actually have a tweet that's somewhere. I'll find it. I'll repost it. Where I found the sketchbook that I had drafted all of the names for GrimWax on, and there was a couple of other names I almost picked, like Dire Wax, Vile Wax, and a couple of other weird ones. But it shows my whole thought process. I kind of wrote out like everything relating to things that are dark and scary, and then all things relating to like candles. And then I kind of
I'm
just
just imagining like your dark alter ego, just evil crayon.
poisonous purple crayon. God.
Oh, toxic turquoise.
Oh
Oh
man,
man,
but
that's
yeah,
good.
I'll find that. I'll repost it so people that are following me can see that because I think it's pretty neat. But yes, next question by Aura.
Next question by Ara, which is, what is your favorite OST?
Okay, so I'm gonna split this up because I know this comes up somewhere else too. I'm gonna split this up between my favorite movie or film or show soundtrack and separate it from game soundtracks because
Awesome.
yeah. Uh, so my favorites, I have a couple of favorite soundtracks. Um, the first couple that come to mind are the Gladiator soundtrack. The original movie Gladiator was one of the first CD soundtracks I ever had. I don't know. Have you ever watched Gladiator? The
Um,
Russell Crowe?
no, no, I haven't. Is that the one that's the Sparta scene is from?
Nope, that's 300.
Or
This one's the Are You Not Entertained?
that one.
Yeah.
I really like, all things considered, even though I'm so into movie soundtracks, I'm really not that much of a movie person, all things.
I mean, that's not. I mean, shit. I don't usually watch movies, especially nowadays. But yeah, that Gladiator soundtrack was the first soundtrack that I ever had. It was the one that my dad had got, and we would always put it into the plug it into the truck. You know, we'd be going driving down, go fishing. We'd have an hour and a half drive, so we'd be playing the Gladiator soundtrack the way down. You know, and it was a lot of fun. I
That's
like
really relatable to me.
yeah. That soundtrack's really special. It's not only is it extremely beautiful. I mean, Hans Zimmer and God, I wish I could remember the woman's name that helped write it. But it has a mix of just some really awesome action music and some really just beautiful, luscious, like beautiful music in it too. Um, but another soundtrack um, that I listen to a lot as of late is the Demon Slayer soundtrack. I don't know. You don't really do you
I
anime at
I
all?
really I do it. I do some. I went through a phase in like seventh grade,
I
but
see.
aside from that, and then I watched JoJo's with like a group of like three friends,
Of
like
course. Yeah.
this year. We didn't get too far, but we still had a good time.
Yeah, you had the JoJo experience.
Yeah,
But Demon Slayer is a newer show that came out, and it has an amazing soundtrack. That's just a mix of all the styles of anime soundtracks that I like. Like, it sounds like the Naruto Shippuden soundtrack, which was amazing. It sounds like I mean, this is crossing over to video games, but it has a lot of stuff from the Nier soundtrack in it too, as far as style and types of choirs that they use and things like that. Um,
yeah.
the I'm gonna throw this one in there too because it's so there's another soundtrack that is very ingrained into my soul. Um, it's
Oh,
the soundtrack to the movie Only You. I doubt you've seen that movie. Have you seen
I
Only
I
You?
don't think I've even ever heard of it.
It's a romance movie with Robert Downey Jr. and
Oh,
I think it's from like the early 2000s or late 90s or something like that. And the soundtrack's awesome, and it has the Neil Armstrong. I think it's Neil Armstrong's version of Only You, and there's a couple of songs on there that my mom had the soundtrack, and she would always play it in the car when we were traveling. We traveled a lot, and she would always play this one track on there. And when I was really little, that one track would always make me cry because it was so like scary and sad and happy all at the same time. It was just like a fluster of
wow.
emotions I wasn't prepared for. And she still talked about it to this day. It's like
That's wow. That having because I definitely understand having music that just gets such a visceral emotional response out of you.
oh yeah.
Like, and if that's a question of mine, I've got like a list of songs that have gotten tears out of me
Oh yeah, for sure.
for various reasons. Most of them are by Dead Mouse, but it's just there.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother topic
Yeah,
that
we might end up having to
I'm
have a
afraid we
talk about
don't.
Dead Mouse.
Yeah, but probably not in this
Oh
episode
no,
of.
definitely not. We won't have enough time for that.
Let's see. When did we start this call? Yeah, we've already been going for like 40 minutes.
Oh yeah. All right, let's go to the next question. Wait, what was the original
Uh,
question? Let's make sure we answered it.
what was your favorite OST?
Oh yeah. Oh, let me say the
And what's your
game
favorite game one?
game one. Yes. I have two favorite game soundtracks that at least I can conceive of at this very second. Um, I listen to the Nier Automata soundtrack and Nier Gestalt and Replicant, all the Nier games. The soundtracks to all those games are amazing. I listen to a version of one of those songs at least almost on a daily basis. That music is very, very influential to the way I try to write melodies and like try to structure things too. I really, really love those soundtracks.
Yeah.
Um, and an earlier game that is really influential and I really, really love is the Kirby and the Crystal Shards for the Nintendo 64.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I
Almost
I
any
love
Nintendo
Kirby.
soundtrack.
I love Kirby
There's no
so
shame in that.
much.
Kirby's great.
Oh man, I threw away my shame like a long fucking time ago. If you've looked at my Twitter for more than 5 minutes, you would know I don't really give much of a fuck anymore.
I've yeah. There's a reason why I only take very quick glances. I see your name. I'm like, okay, what
am
is
I
this gonna be?
am I ready for this? So
Anytime I see your name on a tweet, it activates my flight or fight response.
by the way, you can follow me at twitter.com/GrimWax. That's GRIMWAX. Uh,
And you can follow me at SAW underscore DOES underscore MUSIC.
easy. Oh man. Okay, what's the next question?
Next question is from Jake, which is: if you had to choose a single VST to make an entire song, what would you do? What would you use?
Okay.
Both of his questions are really good,
Oh,
actually.
he
They're
has
really well
great
thought out.
questions. Jake has amazing questions. It's
He
Agnet.
sounds like from what I've like talked to him, He seems like a very intelligent guy.
Oh, he is. He is a very smart dude, and I could talk all day about him. He's amazing. I don't know how he can conceive of the things that he writes sometimes. I just hear him and he's like, "Hey, does this sound good?" I'm like, "Man, I don't even comprehend what you just fucking sent me, but it's amazing." Um
Oh yeah, his stuff is so. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like he's created an entire world with his music.
He
It
really
has
does.
it's such an intricate creative thing that I don't hardly ever see anymore.
Yeah, he has a very unique approach, I think, which helps a lot. But what was the question again?
Um, okay. If you had to choose one
Ah,
single VST to make an entire song, what would it be?
okay. So this is actually I used to do this as an exercise to learn how to use different synthesizers. So what I would do was like when I first learned how to use Harmor, I would sit down and be like, okay, let's write a track. I'm gonna use only Harmor for everything. So I would sit down and be like, okay, I need a kick. How do I make a kick with Harmor? And then you'd figure out where things are, and it would be really slow and it would be really painful. But by the end of it, I
That
would
is,
know
it
Harmor
sounds
inside out.
painful.
Yeah. But I would do that. I would do that with a lot of different synths. If I had to pick one, that would be the most consistent for me to use right now, it'd definitely be Serum. I mean, I just know it inside out. It's super versatile. You can make any sound, you can make any type of sound good. Like you can make good like effect sounds, you can make good drums out of it. You could make literally everything out of it and it sounds great. It has a lot of great effects in it. Like everything about it I just love. Um but one that I've wanted to do really really badly, and I wanted to make a video out of it once I can get my setup to work, is I wanted to use Sakura to make everything. Like, are you familiar with Sakura?
No.
Sakura is a synth in FL that is based off of resonant oscillators, and essentially it recreates string sounds, but it's
Interesting.
super cool. I really love it, but I'm really curious if I can make, because you can make different types of string sounds. Like you can do like a staccato kind of thing, or a pizzicato where it sounds really plucky. You can make the legato, really long, sustained kind of stuff too. You can make piano sounds out of it. So I was like, you know what? I bet I could find a way to make drums out of this too. So that was kind of my main thing. Is I was like, I want to make drums by using Sakura, the string synth, and see what I come up
That
with.
would be That's interesting. You could. I wonder what an 808 would sound like with that.
Well,
Like a bass slap 808.
do you remember my song Piano Cuts? It was put
Yes,
into
I do.
the mix that faded into darkness.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
Infamous.
It was at the perfect time too.
Oh yeah, for sure. But the 808 in that is actually a piano. It's I
Interesting.
all 90% of the sounds in that, other than the drums and the at least one of the basses, were all piano sounds or like resampled piano sounds in some shape or form. um and that was the whole exercise of that song, was like, how much can I do with just this piano recording? And I filtered down the lowest piano note I had, and then bounced it out being filtered down really hard, and then just kind of squashed it a bit more, and then that became the 808 sub in that song. So I
Yeah.
my thing is like everything's about a process, right? Like you can take almost any sound and get it to where you want it to be if you follow the process through enough. Like I feel like people get too stuck up trying to make sure they have the perfect sound to start with, but don't worry about the actual creative process of getting what you want. But
Yeah.
that's a whole another topic. I could talk forever on that.
I can tell.
Okay, did I answer the original question? I have a really short attention span.
Yes, you did. It's
Okay,
okay. I've got really bad ADHD. I
that's
completely understand.
all right, next question.
From Multi, how do
Okay.
you start a track? Does it come from inspiration? Do you start making weird sounds, or does it start with a drum loop, chords, melody, etc.?
Okay. So if you could probably tell by the way I talk, it's usually different every time, or at least I
Yeah,
try to have a different approach. However, I have a couple of methods that are kind of like my surefire ways. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna get a track out of this. If it's good or not, I don't know. But um, if I'm going in knowing that I need to finish a track this session, then I'll typically start with drums and the sub. I'll make whatever my beat is, my core beat. I'll think about what genre I'm doing. I mean, I typically really like anything that's 4 the floor because it leaves me to be more creative around it. So I don't have to be thinking like that's why I don't do drum and bass that much anymore because it takes a different kind of angle to juggle the sounds. And I feel like it's almost more limiting to have your drums being more complex because then you're limited to having more drony, longer sounds. But anyways,
yeah,
um, so I'll typically start with like a 4 to 4 kind of beat. Um, I'll just get a kick, snare, or clap. I'll typically go for probably both, and then a offbeat hi-hat that I'll just have on the second half of the loop just to see
yeah.
how it
Just
sounds when it
your
changes. And then I'll just mess with the sub rhythm. I'll either start with the sub, just trying to get like whatever kind of underlying pulse I want, or I'll start just straight up with like whatever the main riff bass is going to be. I'm essentially trying to write like the most open-ended, easy part I can first. Because if I start with something that's more complicated, like chord progressions first,
yeah.
then I can get lost really easy, and it can be really
That's
easy to.
normally what I do.
Yeah, and I feel like if you have a really good understanding of chords and like playing an instrument, I definitely recommend trying to start somewhere like that first. But like for me, I don't play an instrument proficiently enough to just sit down and be like, all right, and then this is the thing I want to play and just play it. Like I can't do that. So I end up just literally physically writing them out more often than not. So
Yeah,
I'll start with something that I can have just off of the root note. Like the more open-ended it can be to start with, the better for me because then I can
yeah.
just kind of ask myself questions after that. I'm going to be like, "Okay, this is neat. What came before this or what comes after this?" And I just kind of go from there.
All right, all right. That's all of Multi's questions. We now only have questions from Joe Dimdees, Agnet75, and me.
All right.
We're gonna go back to Joe Dimdees, and I'm gonna say it exactly how he worded it,
Okay.
which is, "How the living fuck did you get your drums so clean and crisp?" Question mark. Question mark.
I love that question so much. Uh,
And it's just his style of just text.
oh yeah, I copied it straight from the message. I didn't alter anything. I was just like, "Yep, that's exactly how I'm going to how I'm going to have
Oh,
that
that's
question
perfect.
asked." Um so drums are a huge thing for me. Um I I really try to spend a lot of time on on drums, and not necessarily that they always have a lot of processing, but I always try to make sure they're exactly how I want them to be and they're sitting where I want them to be. And that's a huge part because your drums more often than not are going to take up the majority of the space in your mix. Like the snare by itself takes up a huge range of your mix. I mean, it's a really good sounding snare to me is kind of almost flat in frequency response as it goes down the frequency spectrum, but except for the root note that just kind of tonks out of it. Um, but the Biggest thing I think for getting the drums to stand out the way I do is to just have their volume just a little bit louder than everything. Like literally all I'm doing is my normal mixing, um, plus just having my kick and snare peaking. I don't know where I have it relatively peaking is almost always different. But say I have my kick and snare peaking at -3 dB. Then I'll have the next loudest thing will be either at -4 or -4.5 or something around there to give me that little bit of space. Um, or even if I'm feeling crazy, go down a whole 2 dB. Um, but that little bit of space helps so much, especially because with electronic music, your master is going to end up kind of getting squashed quite a bit anyways. I mean, even if you're pretty delicate with it, just by the nature of the type of music it is, it's going to get squashed pretty hard. So if you have your loudest shit all playing, say you had your sub and your kick playing at the same peak loudness, that is just going to that's not going to sound loud because your kick has a bit a tiny bit of dynamic to it, depending on the type of kick you have. um, for me, I personally like really short kicks, and that plays a
Yeah,
huge part in how it makes the drums stand out because it is a super dynamic sound, by the nature of it being so short. Like I usually try to keep it under an eighth note. Like I've been working on some serum presets now where I'm making a drum maker, so I can have the timing of the drums actually match up to the grid, so that it's all exactly where I want it to be. Which is something I usually don't get to do, but um, it'll help a lot. Um, but if your kick is really boomy and it's really long, then that also gives you a lot less room to play with the sub of your actual basses because you have to sidechain that much more. So I'd like to keep my kicks
yeah,
really tight, so I'm sidechaining as little as possible so I can have my sub do some interesting things. And I think having that little bit of volume change and then not having the drums be as long, just having them shorter just makes them sound punchier too.
yeah. That's just yeah, yeah. All spot
Confirmed.
on mixing tips confirmed. Um, got any major more things to say, or we get to move on to the next question?
Oh no, yeah, we're good to move on.
Okay. This is the last one we have from Jake, which is it healthy to take breaks from tracks? And when do you advise to do so? And how long is too long?
um so I say yes is healthy to step away from a track and try to come back to it. um my workflow is very, I feel like is very odd. I almost hesitate to say anything because I feel like
Unhealthy.
it's almost unhealthy, yeah. Or I mean it is. Because, if I had a better workflow right now, then I'd be making a lot more music. But um essentially the way I work is that I'll sit down to start a track, and since I usually start from square one 90% of the time anyways, I'll start developing ideas. I'll just sit down and start developing ideas, just as many as I can, or try to take one and really dive into it. Um, but if I start messing with that idea and then it just doesn't go anywhere, then I almost never come back to it. But I save that project and just throw it back somewhere so that
Yeah,
I at least have that idea there. So, because sometimes what I'll do is whenever I'm feeling really jaded and I can't think of anything, I'll just go through all these old ideas, and they're usually 99% of the time, they're not even longer than a loop. And sometimes they're not even in the
yeah,
timeline. It's just like a sound. And that idea, I just want to make sure is there because there's something intrinsic there, right? There's something that I was thinking in the moment. There's something interesting about this. And sometimes I'll go back and I'll have like a melody or a chord progression saved. and I'll be able to go back and snag it. However, relating to the question, when I start a track, and if I don't feel like I can make it full length in the setting, in that single setting, then I typically don't finish them. I don't go back to finish tracks a lot, which is a really unhealthy thing. I do not recommend it. It is horrible for your creative
Hmm.
process. Finish your tracks. For God's sake, please finish your tracks. It's so important. Trust me, it's so important. It's something I'm currently working on, is finishing more tracks. Which has been great with these jams, by the way. I think I
Yeah,
made a comment on this before, but like having this 2 week deadline to be like, okay, every 2 weeks I have to have something new out. At least that's the way I think about it. I mean, I don't require everybody to do that, but like for me, it just helps
it's a
because
personal challenge.
yeah, and like I mean, I write music pretty quickly now. Like I want to try to start practicing having more versions, I guess, or drafting edits a bit more. But like 90% of the songs that I put out that you guys listen to, I didn't spend more than 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours on in total. I mean, I've really streamlined my making process so much that if I can't get the idea just spurt right out there, then it's just not gonna happen for me. Um,
Yeah. I mean, I somewhat agree. I definitely agree that that's not a good way to do it.
yeah.
And I don't use it as like a process of exclusion, but I will say most some of my favorite tracks I've ever done were times where I just did something, I came up with it, and I liked it so much that it spawned an entire track, and I just kept going at this insane pace, and I just made an entire track all in one sitting. But all the other thing with that is the problem I have with doing that is it made a lot of my early song structure just really, really weird.
Yeah. That's a very natural thing that happens whenever you're working in that kind of format. That's why my formats are I mean, I have a pretty good understanding about how I want to structure a song whenever I'm working on it, but that doesn't mean that I very rarely have the same, like, I guess, separations and sections. I mean, there's typically separated
Yeah.
in like 8 or 16 bar sections, more or less. But like sometimes I'll add weird pauses and stuff because I like that
Oh, same.
weirdness. I like fake drops. I like all the things that like will kind of get you a little bit frustrated, but when it really happens, it's like it's nice.
The type of stuff that scares DJs away.
Exactly. It's supposed to be scary in
Yeah.
every shape and form. Like, God, how do I DJ this? Scary.
Yeah. Just you're up on the decks and the track comes on and you just see them just I don't even know where I'm going with this, but you just see someone just jump off the decks in fear.
I have never DJ'd or, well, I mean, I've never DJ'd like my music or anything like that, but I would be very, very curious as to the crowd reaction for Wings because it's such a weird
Oh,
suspenseful build that just like keeps going and then tricks you and then keeps going again, and I'm like, I would
the
love to see the
entire
reaction
thing
for
is
that.
just like a magic trick almost. That's the best way I can describe Wings. The entire thing is just like a magic show because you have no clue what's about to happen.
Yeah, I really like that one.
It keeps you on edge. And I'm imagining specifically with Wings, what you might do is you'd be going into some other track, maybe like some track that everyone knows, like a really popular dance hit,
Mhm.
and you cut it just before the drop, and you just like drop out of view, like behind the table, and you just start Wings, and no one knows like if you just left or what.
That would be really fucking funny. People better pray that I don't become a DJ because I would really fuck with people. Like I would really fuck with people.
You need like fire department and like ambulances on
Oh
standby
yeah.
for all of the tension.
Some psychologists for like the emotional scarring and everything in between.
Oh man, I'm just imagining all of these wooks at like somewhere, some venue, and just having a bunch of like psychologists with comfortable couches and stuff to lay on,
Oh my god.
all on the outside perimeter for the people who can't take it.
And they're sitting there like I don't know what happened. It got loud and then it got quiet again, but then it got loud and scary and then it all happened. Just like 20 people just all laying out
Just
and lay down couches.
all of them with just white noise therapy to calm them down.
Oh my god. Okay, what was the original
All
question
right,
and did I answer it?
you answered it. It was, is it healthy to take breaks from tracks? We spiraled so far out of
We
control.
really did. I'm so bad with that. I warned you. I'm really bad with
Um,
that. But
this
it's
thing is
okay.
gonna be long.
It's
The
okay.
only thing I am slightly worried about is that I might get like interrupted, but it'll
That
probably be fine.
it'll be fine. Okay.
We
So
can always. All right, last question from someone who isn't me, which is from Joe Dimdees,
okay.
and which is what genre or styles are you wanting to make in the future?
Um so right now my focus is kind of on this I've been really interested in this down or mid-tempo stuff people have been doing.
Yeah.
Um because it fits the GrimWax aesthetic completely just by
Oh,
it
it really
existing.
does.
I'm like that's the genre I should be doing really to fit with like my aesthetic and stuff. So Indigo Inferno was kind of like my first jab at kind of trying to get in that direction. I still
I
stayed
mean,
pretty
I
wubby,
thought
but
Wings was still pretty good.
oh
And
yeah.
honestly, the wubs, there is a place for that and that type of music.
Oh yeah. It's I really try to do the shapes of the LFOs and stuff really to taste. I'll spend a lot of time on that. The biggest thing with Indigo Inferno that was really cool for me personally is in its process is that the way the sub works in that one, because it's not playing the same thing that it's doing a counterpoint with the well, kind of a counterpoint, a rhythmic counterpoint to the actual bass sound that you hear, the wub. And
Yeah.
it's I had literally volume automation clips for the entire song with the sub. So like the sub was just following the notes of the main bass line, but then I would manually for every single second that there was a sub during the drops, I would volume automate the shapes of the sub, and there I would leave like 50% of the sub is just always playing, but then that top 50% is what's being altered. So there's always something constant in
Yeah.
the sub, but there's a little bit that's actually dynamic. And I think dynamic subs are like really the thing I'm trying to focus on now because I think that's super interesting. It makes the basses sound so much more real whenever it's actually interacting with the sound.
Yeah.
I hate more than anything whenever I hear like some dubstep sound, but then it's just you can just tell it's just a really fat sine wave just playing underneath it. Like it's not doing
Yeah.
anything to try to correlate with it. Um, I feel like that's really a waste of the perfect opportunity to just have it follow. Like something easy that a lot of people do now is in Serum. They'll throw whatever modulator LFO that they have modulating everything, and then also throw it onto the sub volume. I think even something like that is really, really effective because it makes your sounds just so much more dynamic and it makes them seem louder because there's actually a difference that you're hearing. So I guess that when I'm talking about styles and stuff, I really want to focus on mid tempo and I really want to focus on dynamic subs.
Awesome. That's very specific with the sub thing.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
I definitely agree with you. It's something I've been very guilty of in the past.
Oh yeah.
It's
It's
just bass note
it's
every
so
like bar.
tedious though to do it the way that I do it. Like I don't like I think the much more straightforward ways to do like I said with serum is to just have it kind of something that makes it automatically follow so you don't have to do it
Yeah.
manually. But the fun about doing it manually is that sometimes you'll hear a part and you'll be like, "Well, wait, what if I had the sub like going at half the speed of the top
Oh,
sound, you know?" And that's when it gets cool.
yeah. And like on the concept of just doing things manually, that's one of the reasons why I never use arpeggiators ever.
Yeah.
I all anytime I do an arpeggio, I always write it out myself.
Mhm.
And that's just like a big thing for me. Same with like music theory helpers and anything like that. I don't ever like to even think about the theory of my tracks because it kind of kills the inspiration for me.
It really does. And I'm that's a great thing that you do in your process because it can be really easy to get bogged down with all those details. But something that people don't do as much or they I feel like people have misconception about the creative process or at least how it works with music is that really what you should be doing shouldn't be trying to solve problems before they happen. You know, you should go in, be like, all right, I'm gonna make some cool idea. Either that be a melody, a chord progression, a wub, or whatever the fuck it is. Um, have like a cool idea, and then when you get stuck, then you can ask yourself questions and be like, well, what's not working here? You know? And that's when
Yeah,
that's the creative process. Is you asking
it's
yourself
problem solving.
questions. Yeah, it's you asking yourself, well, what is what isn't working here? Where did it go wrong? And I actually this might be a little deviate off the course, but I think it's important. Is
Okay.
I'm a really big fan of the Masterclass series. Have
I
you
love those. I like anytime one of their ads come on YouTube,
just watch
I
it?
I just watch it. They're so well made.
They really
And if
are.
I had the money, I would definitely go and do Dead Mouses. I would go and do Hans Zimmer's. There's
Hmm.
a couple of other just like random ones like cooking too. They have like six that are on cooking,
Oh yeah, they have Gordon Ramsay on there
like different
twice.
stuff. Yeah, but they're so even you can tell from their ads, they're
Oh yeah.
so well made.
Oh yeah. And I have three of the master classes. I own three of them. One of them is Dead Mouse. I have the Dead Mouse one. I've watched that a couple of times actually.
Would
Um,
you recommend it?
um, I do and I don't. Um, I think I talked about this a long time ago. I think, but there's conceptually, I think that in order to understand how Dead Mouse works, I think it's a very very important thing to watch. If you know it, however, it's not as detailed as it doesn't really go into the depth that I would have liked. I feel like Deadmau5 is a kind of guy that he has a lot of technical knowledge. He is a very, very smart individual, but I feel like he kind of lacks in his ability to explain things all the way. I mean,
Yeah,
a majority of it, like, don't get me wrong, I learned a lot of really great things in it, but as an overall, I think a lot of the information in it are things that you can find almost anywhere else. I mean, he's just phrasing it how in relation to how he works. But there are a couple of bits in it that are like really like unless you hear it from him, you're not really sure if it's a real thing or not. Like Well, at least whenever you don't know what you're doing, like I did whenever I was watching it,
Mhm.
um, like why the fuck people put, and this was something that bothered me for the longest time, but when he said it, I was like, oh my God, at least somebody is actually validating what I'm talking about. Is whenever he was talking about why these fucking dance producers are throwing huge ass amounts of compression on their on their synthesized kicks. Like it doesn't.
Is that the one thing from the trailer? Is like using like an SSL series compressor on a
Yeah,
dance
yeah.
music kick makes no. Oh,
Yeah,
that was so specific. It became a meme. Like whenever it came
yeah.
out.
It's I, like when he said that, I was like, "Thank you," because like I've worked with so many people that it's like I'm like, "Oh, how did you process your kick?" And I'm like, "Oh, I used this and some compression here." And I'm like, once I said they compressed it, I'm like, "All right," because it's like
That's something that I'm guilty of. Not even because I barely know what a compressor does. That's something you'll learn about me if you interview me. I have no clue technically what I'm doing whatsoever. I just don't.
and that's
I
okay.
am yeah,
That is
but I've
okay.
only done it because I've just heard that's what you're supposed to do,
I would
and I
honestly
it does.
before you instead of compressing, I'm just this is just gonna be a side note. Just throw a saturator on there instead, and just like what I do. What DAW do you use?
I use Freeware City. I use
Oh, okay.
LMMS.
Yes, that's right. Um, but essentially, what I do is I throw anything that I'm thinking of doing what normal or other people would think to use a compressor for. I throw a saturator on instead because all it's doing is you're just pushing the volume up into it and just creating a couple of soft harmonics that just kind of like level it out, make it fat, but also just don't fucking destroy it or just make it muffled.
Yeah.
But um God, what was the original question?
The original question was what genre or styles
Oh
would you
yeah, yeah.
use?
Oh yeah, because then I deviated with the masterclass. Yes, the
Yeah.
masterclass. Yes. So I have three. I
Okay.
have the dead mouse one. We got distracted with dead mouse again. We're fucking such fanboys.
Hey, I mean, it's a good sign that like a podcast dynamic does work when we can just do this.
I mean, for real though, I feel like me and you have a very natural way of talking that just kind of works. But anyways,
Yeah.
so I have also Christina Aguilera's masterclass on singing, and I also the one I got just the other day, and I have to say I'm kind of like I consider myself like a lifelong learner. I just love learning things, and I've studied a whole bunch of different topics and all sorts of different areas of things, but I have to say the most important creative information that I've ever learned has been from this most recent masterclass with Neil Gaiman. He's an author that wrote Sandman for DC Comics and also Coraline. He wrote Coraline. Um,
Wow.
and
So he's got a
his
pretty
master,
impressive.
I cannot recommend it enough because it really explains to you what exactly the creative process is and how crazy and weird it is and how I was watching it, and he was obviously talking about writing, but it applies to everything. It really does. It's the way he explains it makes the weird journey into your creative mind seem like you actually have a roadmap. And it is just I cannot recommend it enough. So
Yeah.
if any of you, I'm not sponsored by Masterclass, but hey Masterclass, if you want to sponsor me, go for it. Um, but I definitely recommend if you go into Masterclass for I wouldn't even recommend any of the music ones before I would recommend Neil's. If you're a music producer, watch Neil's first. Before you even go into Hans Zimmer, before you even go anywhere else. go watch Neil's, because his creative process is absolutely fundamental. And I've found that with all of these master classes and every other type of um I watch a lot of lectures, I watch a lot of educational information, and I've found that his way of explaining the process is exactly how it works, like as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned. So I can't recommend that one enough. So even for the music producers, you're thinking about getting that Dead Mouse, the Armin van Buuren, or the Hans Zimmer one. Before you do
I
that,
don't know about the Armin one, but
I'm I haven't watched it, but I'm guessing that it's probably not going to be that helpful unless
yeah.
you are wanting to be a superstar DJ and you want to see how superstar DJs use presets to make their songs, then go for it. Ooh,
But
shit. Did
that,
I just do that?
ooh man, Armin van Buren, hello, man.
Man.
But like from what I saw of it, if you're like an Armin fan, which I kind of used to be, not much anymore at all. Like I've got a couple of his tracks that I do enjoy, but there's just something about some of his stuff that makes it just it's off-putting.
You know, here's my thing with all of that, is that I don't even really listen to electronic music that much anymore. Mainly because, like, two of these superstar DJs that are, I mean, these are some pretty hot takes, but I cannot stand Armin van Buuren or Tiesto. I can't. Like,
Thank you.
I can't.
Thank you.
I can't do it. It's just.
Oh man.
I can hear the relief in your heart. Just.
It's released. I can think of like maybe two tracks, both extremely old for both of them that I like. For Tiesto, it's like I can't remember what it used to be. Our Adagio for strings, no
Yeah.
Adagio, not Adagio.
Right.
But then I found out that it was ghost produced, and then I couldn't listen to it anymore because it just
Yeah.
completely ruined the. And then another Tiesto, which was like something by Daylight, something like that. Really old dance track, and I used to really like that. And then for Armin, there's one of his dance anthems. I like the one that they actually used in the trailer for his masterclass. I liked.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this other like Native American inspired psytrance track that I thought was like really
Oh.
interesting. It's called like Great Spirit,
Mm-hmm.
but
I could.
and I cannot stand any of their newer stuff.
You know, here's my stance on both of them. Okay, I'm just gonna lay it out real quick. Like, okay, so if I had to sit in a room with one of them, okay, I would definitely pick Armin. Like, because
True.
I feel like I just don't agree with his process, you know. But like, you know, at the end of the day, he does make some good songs and things like that. And as far as I know, he writes most of his stuff, as far as I
Yeah.
am aware, if not all of it. Tiesto is just like he's just an old guy that's been DJing forever and has it just he just like the thing that settled it for me
I
was
can feel
his
the rage in your voice.
it sears. It sears. Almost as much as it does for Nicky Romero, but I'm not gonna get into that. just name dropping, just fucking.
I know nothing about him. I've heard one of his tracks.
So real quick on the Tiesto topic, the thing that settled it for me was his fucking remix of Clarity by Zed. Well, quote unquote by Zed, really by
Porter.
wasn't was it Porter or it was
I'm pretty sure it was Porter. It sounds like Porter. It really
I mean
does.
it really does. I just wonder if it was Porter or if it was fucking what's his name? Shit. Matthew Coma. Um,
It could have been both, honestly.
honestly, well, if it was knowing Porter, if Porter was involved, it was probably just Porter. Um,
True.
but so Tiesto's remix of Clarity. If you have not heard it, just don't listen to the whole thing. Just go turn it on and just try not to sigh too deeply because it might make you lightheaded and you might, fall over a bit from it. But it's literally like the first eight like eight or so bars of the main part of Clarity, and then a generic as fuck EDM uplifter drum build,
Uh,
and then just like a kind of like Big Room drop before Big Room was Big Room, and it had nothing to do with the song at all. I don't even think it was in the same key. It was so
oh
fucking bad.
no.
I'm like, how the fuck does this kind of shit exist? And then that's when I really got a distaste for DJs, because it's like
I hate
their
to
mindset is
say
just
it.
different. Their mindset is just different. However, whenever you have, producers that DJ their own stuff, that's different. Or like DJs who learned to
Yeah.
produce their own music, that's different, because it's coming from an honest place. Tiesto doesn't come from an honest place. He comes from, how can I make sure I can get headline at Ultra this year? And it's like, I hate that kind of mindset because it's not creative. It's making a product come out, which I just hate the concept of. I feel like it should be more of every song is kind of like you're journeying into yourself and you came out with something cool, or like you're reimagining of somebody else's journey being like what a remix should be, or
Mhm.
it's so much shit is out there.
Yeah.
And so much shit makes so much money. But here on
I mean,
Waxed, we don't give a fuck what you make.
we we don't. But like, there's also the thing. As far as remixes are concerned in general, um, I've made it not really a point because I have done like stuff, but the only songs I ever remix, there's only two reasons I remix something. If I just completely respect a track and I'm just like, it's like a compliment. Like, hey, I enjoy this song enough to want to do my own take on it.
Yeah,
That's
because it
how
has
good
like
I
that.
think it is conceptually.
Totally.
It's
Totally.
like it's a if you're asking someone like, hey, I really want to remix your track, that's a genuine like compliment there.
Yeah, and like it's like Joe. He's doing a remix of my song Waifu. Um,
Of course he is.
and oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. He's been streaming it. If you guys don't know Joe Demd's, he's one of the producers here on Waxed, and he's just so awesome. And I've been working with him a lot recently. And
He's like super like he's been there since the beginning, hasn't he?
um
Or like he was at least very
he was
very early on. I
very
think he was there
very
when I was
early on.
there.
I think, oh god, I'd have to really check back to see when, 'cause
I checked back
I don't even know if I
like
met Joe initially through the server or if I had met him through Twitter first. Because I'm
I
not sure
mean
which came first.
I
God.
remember I actually went back and found my welcome message
Oh my god.
and waxed like
Dude,
a week ago.
can you please link
I
me to that?
I don't know. I don't have pinning power. Otherwise I might have pinned it just out of sheer like ego. But
What's that?
I remember it was like
You can
September
copy oh
2018.
listen. You can go to that quote, click the three little dots and go copy message link and send me that. You should
I
have the
I
ability to do
will.
that.
I will. I'm just saying it'll take a while to get all the way back
Oh
there.
yeah. When you do that, we got sidetracked again. Um, Oh man.
But
Okay.
like, there's only two scenarios I remix things in, or it's just like a specific melody. Because if you look at the remixes I've actually done, you
Mm-hmm.
have like the Stranger Things thing, which is literally just an arpeggio,
Yeah.
and you have Carol of the, which is it's Carol of the Bells, and
No.
then no, those are like the only two remixes I've ever put out in any capacity. And it's
Mm-hmm.
because they're just, oh, and also this is one that not everyone knows about. Multi is like a huge fan of this track. I did a remix of Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh.
I the the old project file is completely decimated. I have no idea what happened to it, but it happened whenever I like switched laptops. But
Hmm.
it's there's something wrong with it. So all I have is this concept, and I'm currently on a journey of like trying to rebuild it from the ground up.
Oh
But
God.
it's like an 8 or 9 minute long remix,
Oh
and it
God.
goes from mid tempo to electro house to, and the final end of it is like drum and bass, NES drum and bass, if that makes sense. The whole thing is, I made it a point to explore so many genres in it. And I just took the one melody to its logical and like thematic extreme. It's one of the tracks I'm like oddly proud of, even though technically, technical wise, it sounds like garbage because I used Lander to master it.
Oh no.
That was back whenever I used Lander. I only used it on like two tracks, but
Man.
I'm better now for it. I've learned my lesson.
I'm better now. I'm better now.
I've recovered.
Yeah,
Oh
I'm
man,
very similar when it comes to remixes. I think the only one I have out now, I mean technically it's a bootleg, but was the Morgan Page one I did for The Longest Road.
yeah,
And like for that one I literally only took the vocal. I mean they gave you stems for everything, but I just took the vocal. I try, like you said, I try to only take one thing from a song because there's usually, if there's a really good song, there's one element that really just says what the song is, and a lot of times
yeah,
for lyric based stuff, it's, the vocal, but that isn't always the case. I mean, if you're doing like an old Skrillex track, then you probably want, either a melody or like one of the crazy basses or something like that, or the drop structure. But, I try
mhm,
to take whatever the key thing is, that what's the least I can take so that what song I'm working on. And then I just reharmonized
exactly,
everything.
exactly. I remember I actually posted this in the server a while ago. But like "Smells Like Teen Spirit" by
Yeah,
Nirvana.
yeah, yeah.
I took the melody for that and I changed the chord progression and the bass line, and it sounds completely different. Like, I didn't even use the vocals or anything. I just like by ear, like drew it in with MIDI, and it's complete. It just, you can tell that's what it is, but only if someone tells you that's what it is.
Right. Oh man, you're gonna have to send me that.
It's
Or
in
if it's in there
like
somewhere.
music. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in music, like hashtag music production. It's in there. It's not even like that far back at
Oh, okay, then I'll
all.
just find it.
It was like within the week actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think people underestimate the power of reimagining something, because honestly, like, music is just a derivative by nature, you know? And even though we're sitting here talking about originality all day long, it's like whenever you get down to it, your mind's going to use the melodies that you've heard to write the ones you're going to write.
Yeah.
It's going to use them as reference anyway. So something that I like to think about is like, I'll pick a random ass melody that I know really good, and then try to work off of that and be like, where can I go from here? And just keep making variations until it's just different. Like, I think the waifu I'll talk about the waifu song for a second because I know Joe will really want to hear this. Um,
Oh,
the waifu song. Are you familiar with that song?
yes,
Song?
yes,
Okay.
I am. I remember. I think it was actually on Twitter too. It might have been Joe. He sent this video of him and just two of his friends just jamming in his house to it,
Yeah.
and it was the most wholesome, just the best thing I've ever seen. There's only like it was like similar to remember back when Zakarama was DJ Reaper.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember his old remember his old like Twitter trailers for his songs of him dancing in like public places to
Oh
it.
yeah, I do remember
Those were
that.
I love
We
those.
need to tell him to do those again.
Yeah, Zach is just another whole interesting character.
It
I
really
don't know
is.
him as well as I would like to, but just seeing a lot of his work has been very interesting, especially his new branding
Yeah.
is just completely insane to me, but it works and it's just
Yeah, no, his whole I love his aesthetic now. It's very cool. It's a very cool aesthetic, and I think once he gets into it a bit more, hopefully he'll be able to like bring some more color into it too. Because I really like his like pentagram thing he has going on. I just
yeah,
think it needs to be darker and eviler.
like the anarchist.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and there that is actually like one of my pet peeves is all of the like Satanist dubstep producers. It's so overplayed. It's the most it's literally you're taking something that already exists, which is death metal, and applying it to dubstep. And so many other people have done that before you, and it works. It does work, but they're all of their branding is the same.
Yeah, it's like I want to know what there's one person that's doing all of their like text art. I know it because it all looks the same. And like I don't know if you've seen them, but like they kind of look like tree roots or something, and but then they kind of spell out roughly what the name of the artist is. But all of those like Death Step producers have like the same fonts or font style. It's so
Oh
funny.
man,
But anyways, waifu. Um,
yeah.
so that song, I had used two songs as reference tracks for that. One of them was the ending song to an anime that had come out that season called well, oh, it's a long title. What was it? Um not Rascal Flats. Does Okay. Rascal does not dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. Now, I know when you hear
Oh,
that, you may be
I
thinking, "Oh, that's an interesting
I
sounding show."
I don't have anything to say that isn't insulting.
Trust me, I probably heard that all before. Um,
Oh yeah.
it's actually a very interesting show, and it has an amazingly catchy ending song. Definitely go recommend it. I'll link it to you after this. Um, not not that you're
I
going to
mean, to be
enjoy
fair,
it, but
we are in quarantine now. Everything is on limits.
yeah, for real. And the other one is also an anime, an older one. I use I referenced another ending song from Card Captor Sakura. The first ending song to Card Captor Sakura is a song called Groovy, and it's so fucking catchy, and it's so happy. And Yoko Kanno is just such an amazing composer. She just writes everything beautifully. So I use those two tracks as my reference tracks. I mainly based the chord comping and progressions more so off of the Bunny Girl Senpai ending song, but the melody and stuff is very based off of Card Captor stuff, and also Haruhi Suzumiya, the God Knows track. I think either God Knows, no, the Haru Hare song, the meme one. People that know will know what I'm talking about. The 2007 anime clicks will know. But those Japanese songs have a very cool structure to them, like how they arrange melodies together into a whole cohesive piece is really interesting once you start looking into it.
Yeah.
And often, and the odd thing is that these happy hodunky songs are the ones that have the really complex melody structures. It's amazing. But yeah, for you, Joe, go check out those songs if you like waifu. I'll link them to you. Okay, are we okay.
We have more than answered the question.
Okay, I was
So
pretty sure we answered the question. How many more questions do we have that are by people that aren't you?
none.
Okay.
We're into the lightning round.
Okay,
So
this is going to be probably I'm going to try to make these answers fast. I swear. I'm going to try to do them in like a sentence or two at best.
I know there's a few of them, like there's a couple of them that are asking you how you met people. Those are going to warrant entire stories, but most of them are fairly simple.
Yeah, for the ones that are, yeah, we'll play it by ear. We'll play it by ear.
Okay.
If it's a long video, it's a long video. Fuck it.
It's already a long video, let's
It's
be
already
honest.
very long. People are gonna see this upload and be like, "Fucking 2 hours? What the fuck?"
I guarantee you it's gonna be 2+ hours.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But there's a couple of the hardcore fans, multi, I'm looking at you,
Yeah.
that are gonna watch the whole thing.
If you have made it this far, you need to write in the comments your middle. No, let's do something less personal. You
Um, the name of your first pet, or the name of
backwards.
the
Name of your
or no,
first pet
the name of
backwards.
or if you've never had a pet, the first video game you've ever played.
There we go. Actually, let's change it. Let's change it all to the first video game you ever played. Write it backwards.
All right, that's not hard at all.
That'll be really fun. There'll be like fucking some dumbass shit sitting down there. It'll be great. Okay, okay, lightning round. Let's go.
All right, what got you into electronic music?
Fuck. The fucking broadest, like most easily fucking drawn out into an entire discussion question. Okay, quick answer to that. Quick answer to that is my dad had a lot of my early musical influences came from my dad just because he had a lot of CDs.
Same.
So we're in the basement and we had a pool table and we used to always play pool. And he had this album that he would always play. And I never knew what it was. But I would later come to figure out that it was the album that Darude had that had Sandstorm on it and Feel the Beat and like all those bangers, man. All those old trance bangers. Like, oh God. So we would listen to that while we played pool when I was like really little. Like I could barely even fucking hold the pool stick. Like it was like crazy how young I was. But that was the first like electronic music that I actively listened to. And then later I wouldn't touch electronic music again. And I was probably, when I listened to that, I was probably like 5 or so, something like that. I didn't touch electronic music really again until I was a freshman in high school. And up till then, I had listened to like rock and a lot of metal. I was one of those kids that listened to like 30 Seconds to Mars, Breaking Benjamin, and Atreyu, and all that kind of stuff. I was one of those kids. And so I didn't touch electronic music until I was a freshman. And when I was a freshman was 2011, which was, any of you that follow the electronic scene, was a pretty big fucking year.
Yeah.
That was like Ghosts and stuff. That was Flux Pavilion's
I
Gold
Can't
Dust
Stop.
remix.
Or
I Can't Stop.
when was I Can't Stop? Was that 2009?
2009?
2009?
2009. I don't remember, but it was in that same realm, you know, with like Flux Pavilion, Dr. P, Mode Step, you know, Dead Mouse, Skrillex, obviously.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
you know, all of that happened that year, or you know, whereas becoming popular in my area that year. Um, so, you know, when that happened, when I heard Dead Mouse, when I heard Ghosts and stuff, I was like, I get that. I want to make that. And so I just started trying to learn. I remember the first piece of equipment I ever bought because I didn't know anything. I didn't even know what a DAW was, and I couldn't properly use the internet to figure out how to word it. So I literally went off to Guitar Center and bought a machine. And I think Luke actually still has that machine, I think, or maybe he sold it. I'm not sure, but I ended
Wow.
up giving that to him. That was the first thing I ever wrote music on, was that machine pad. And it came with like a sequencer inside the software. So that's what I wrote my first songs on, was just all purely in machine, just
Wow.
arranging.
That's dang. Have you ever heard like Dead Mouse's like how he got into that stuff? He used to work at like a record shop, and where he messed with all of this, like just this all this physical equipment that they had
Mm-hmm.
there at this music shop, and he like got into it just from like an internship with a radio station.
Yeah.
And just like he would just physically walk to places as a kid, and just like, hey, can I help you? It's
Yeah.
just like, can I just like literally stay in here so I can learn what you guys do?
Yeah, but it was also a lot more niche of a thing whenever he was going around doing it too. Like, trust me, I've
True.
I've run around and did the exact same thing that he says that he did, but it doesn't work quite the same way nowadays because you have so many kids
Yeah.
that come up and be like, "Hey, I produce electronic music. Can I watch in as you mix and master these professional tracks?" And it's like, well, no, because you're not going to comprehend things. But then whenever I come up, I'm like, "Hey, well, I kind of know what I'm doing. Can I hang out?" But
Yeah.
okay, lightning. This
It,
is supposed to be lightning round. Okay, next
lightning
question.
round. Lightning round. How long have you been producing?
Fuck. Since 2011, more or less. So 9 years ish.
That's about the answer that I've heard you say before.
Yeah. I roughly try to keep track of it. I don't know what day one was, but I know it's
That's
2011.
that's usually how it works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, what DAWs have you used, and how do they all stack up to each other in hindsight?
Okay, so the quick answer to this is that I've primarily used FL Studio from the beginning. It's been my primary DAW since I started. Um, I have used Ableton. I have used Bitwig. I have used, well, I'm familiar with Pro Tools, just because it's an industry standard. Um, but I think that the thing I always tell everybody about FL is that it's really awesome because there's a million ways to do any one thing in FL. The problem is that there's about a million ways to do any one thing in FL. So it's really easy to get distracted whenever you don't know what you're doing. Like if it's your first DAW, FL can be pretty hard because it doesn't lead you in any direction. It's just kind of like, all right, here's a blank
Yeah,
workspace, which works great
that's
for me, right? Because I'm
that's what I've
so
heard about LMS. I mean, granted, it is very niche, and most people. I remember I watched like a Garden Sound like DAW tier list that he made,
mhm.
and he literally put LMS in this like middle category because he didn't know what it was, and he just heard like the Linux in the name and assumed that it was a Linux only platform, which it's not. It has Mac and Windows versions. And I'm a testament to the fact that you don't have to be technologically skilled to use it. But it's just that's what I've heard is it's most similar to like FL.
Mm.
which is why if I end up switching in the future, it'll probably be to FL.
Yeah, FL is also pretty great because if you're poor like me, you get lifetime free updates, which is amazing. Because like that's the biggest thing that I was like, you can't see my fingers, but I was this close. My fingers are pressed together. I was this close to getting Ableton. The only reason I didn't is because I was young and I didn't have the money. If they decided to have an update the next year or so, I wouldn't be able to afford it. I would just be stuck with the old version.
Yeah.
But FL was like, all right, well, whenever we make a new version, you just get it for the $200 that you spend in the beginning. I'm like, that sounds like a fucking awesome deal. So I just stuck with that. And I found that a lot of artists that I really, really like have used it before.
Hmm.
Like Feed Me still uses FL.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Um, and
I know. I remember someone telling me that Porter was like one of the people that
yeah,
got people to say like, "Hold on, this is an actual thing." Oh no,
yeah.
it's Parallel.
Well,
It was back. It was Parallel that told me that because I was on Ash's server with him, talking with
mhm,
him, and I gave him just like I just took a good 20 minutes and gave him like a ton of feedback about this track that he did, which was really, really good, and I loved it. It was like it's so rare nowadays for me to see something that's so creatively interesting while
mhm,
still being technologically good. And that's like the line that I'm working on trying to cross because I'm learning more stuff as I'm doing stuff. I'm going into all these other Discord servers and figuring out what it is that people do to get from nothing to something.
mhm. Yeah.
And he that was something he told me is, yeah, because I told him I used like this free random freeware DAW. He's like, well, don't let anyone tell you that like you're wrong or anything, because no one really even knew FL existed until Porter came out and made worlds with it, and then
Yeah.
now everyone knows what it is, and it's actually kind of a standard entry point DAW now.
It really is. It's definitely, as far as I'm concerned, the biggest DAWs for electronic music are FL, Ableton, and Pro Tools. As far as I'm
Yeah,
concerned, I wish
that's what
Bitwig
I've
would
heard.
be a bit more popular. I really like Bitwig, um, but it hasn't been catching on to the majority yet. But it'll get there. I really like Bitwig. But my I think the reason a lot of people love Ableton, and I love Ableton for all sorts of reasons too, is that one, its time stretching is absolutely immaculate. FL's time stretching can be a bit sloppy, not gonna lie. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's the entire reason I lost piano cuts, was because FL fucked up on the time. Like it just glitched the fuck out and just re-stretched. Because if you stretch something and then try to revert it, sometimes it won't come back exactly the same. It's again, it might just be a me issue. I have a lot of very strange, unique technical issues. Um, which
As we
certainly come from my
saw from the
incompetence.
beginning of the
Yeah, you might hear part of it in the intro to this, but we were having some technical issues on my end. Um, but Ableton really has a nice workflow that allows you to kind of build up a bunch of ideas and then arrange the ideas, as opposed to FL that's kind of just like do whatever, you know. It's really open
yeah.
ended. Um, and I love a lot of the effects in Ableton. Some people like to bitch about the effects in Ableton, which I don't understand, because anybody that can complain about Ableton's effects obviously hasn't heard FL Fruity Reverb 2, because that shit fucking sucks. I'm talking to you,
Oh man.
ImageLine, directly. God, I love you, but God, I cannot get FL Fruity Reverb 2 to sound good at all. It
And
always
I'm
sounds
over
metallic.
here. I'm over here, and I started off using almost all of the plugins I have all came with LMS, and honestly, they aren't that bad, all things considering.
Yeah.
Especially considering it's all freeware.
Mm-hmm.
But like I started off with something called Freeverb,
Yeah.
and now I use like C asterisk two plate to do all of my reverb, and it sounds like reverb. It sounds fine, and
Yeah,
it
plates
works.
plates are always good. Um, but if you're in the market, here's another little plug. If you're in the market for really good free reverb, my highest recommendation is the Dragonfly reverb. It is so good. It has a hall and a room version. I'm pretty sure it also comes in 64-bit. Um, by far my favorite free reverb. Because I know a lot of people just go straight from stock stuff to like Valhalla stuff, but if you aren't ready to go to Valhalla yet for $50 for a reverb, then
Wow.
Dragonfly is a great, really fantastic alternative. Because it's like convolution based. But it also gives you a lot of control. It's a fantastic reverb. Definitely recommend it. Um, okay, what was the original question, and did I answer it?
What DAWs have you used, and how do they all stack up to each other in hindsight? Which I think you've answered.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, next one. This is going to be a bit longer, probably.
Okay.
How did you meet Boot Error, Luke?
Okay. So something I'm not sure if everybody's aware of is that me and Boot Air or Luke were neighbors in Vermont.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, so I grew up. Well, I grew up kind of split between uh, Tallahassee, Florida, and Jericho, Vermont, and because I would switch summers to go up to Vermont and stay up in Vermont for the summer, then I go to school and stuff down in Florida. So I never knew Luke growing up because Luke's a bit older than I am, but we I met him whenever I started working at our local general store. We have a general store that's sort of between our two houses. I'm a little bit down the street, and he lives practically right next to the general store. And he was working at the general store as a cook, and so I started working there. I think I think it was my freshman year of high school. I started working there, or maybe it was my sophomore year. I can't remember, but
Yeah.
it might have been sophomore. But um, I went back. I remember, I remember going back to the kitchen because I was supposed to be studying under Luke, kind of learning how to cook things, right? And like, hey man, what's up? What's your name? And I'm like, oh hey, I'm Don. We kind of figure out we're both pretty cool. He was obviously a couple of years older than me. He was already out of high school by the time I had started working there. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, definitely. Um, and he uh he was like, so he liked to play music back in the kitchen. So he was about to put something on. He was like, hey man, I have to ask, but I have pretty wild taste in music, but like, what kind of stuff do you listen to? I'm like, well, lately I've been into a lot of electronic music. I've been listening to like drum and bass and Noisia, and he was like, no fucking way. Because like
Ah, man.
nobody in that town barely even knew what electronic music was. And for me to like actually know who like Noisia is and like things like that, just got his jimmies in a Russell and Spore. So we instantly were just like bros because then he was like, all right, well, we're playing drum and bass. And so we just started playing drum and bass back in the kitchen when we cooked burgers and fries. and
That that is a match made in heaven right there. That is awesome.
yeah, it was pretty magical. And whenever I got around to trying to make the server initially, he was he was a very he was 50-50 with it with me when we were first starting to make it. I mean, I
Yeah.
conceptualized it, but he knew a lot more about like Discord in general and stuff like that. So by the time we got around to doing this, um, we've known each other for quite a few years. And I remember he had said, because I was around a sophomore at that point, but I had been completely self taught as far as my music production stuff goes. And I figured out he was producing music too, and he made drum and bass, and I was like, oh hey man, and I figured out he lived right down the street, and we were like, holy shit, how do we just not know each other? So then
Oh man,
I went over to his house, and we decided that we are gonna make some tunes, and we sat down and we were just fucking around so much. We were like talking about mastering with Omnicide and all sorts of shit. I can't remember if we made a song that day or if we just fucked around. But
like with this kind of story, I'm surprised you guys didn't end up as like a duo.
we thought about it. We did. We thought about it a lot of times. But the problem is that me and Luke, we have we're both very personal when it comes to how we write music. So even though I feel like we would have made a really good duo, it's just like our processes are very personal. So it's very hard to just split that
Yeah,
with somebody else if you have that kind of workflow. Some people do it really good. Like some of the best electronic art acts are duos, as far as I'm concerned, or trios. And like we're gonna be like, yeah, we're gonna be this cool drum and bass hybrid duo thing, but it just it I don't think it was meant to happen. I think it's
yeah.
more meant to happen for us to be solos.
And I think it did work pretty well because you guys, while you do have your own similarities, you both have like this really interesting, eerie vibe to some of your tracks.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, there's still also just you guys are just very different, and being making your own stuff together like separately, but also just collaborating a lot. Do you know if he uses FL?
he does. Yeah,
Yeah, that definitely makes things easier. The few like times I've tried to collaborate with people, like I've got one in the works with Ara right now.
yeah,
Um, and it's just a bit harder because we're limited to is like MIDI and samples and just bouncing that back and forth, and it still works pretty well. And I think we've got something pretty okay cooking. And I we've only really got an intro right now,
mm-hmm.
but I've just not collaborated with like I think he's the only person I've ever actually collaborated with.
Yeah. Collaborating is very difficult for me because my my process is so like whatever it could be at any given time.
Hold on one
Me,
second.
yeah, yeah.
There's the glorious interruption I was predicting.
Oh, that's all right.
But I think we'll be good, but we're gonna need to really go to actual lightning round.
Okay, yes. We get
So
sidetracked so easily. Jesus.
we really do. There's boot error. How did you meet Jake?
Jake. Okay. That's actually I'd have to ask him. I don't remember exactly how we met. I just remember that really early on he I think it might have been over a stream. I think I went into one of his streams, I think, and we started talking. It was whenever I first made the server, I think, and I was going through different streamers and people on Twitter just kind of asking around, being like, "Hey, I made a server for music producers. You want to come over hang out?" And I'm pretty sure, Jake, you tell me if I'm wrong, but um, I'm pretty sure I met him through stream,
Okay.
then invited him into Wax.
I found Wax through Twitter. I know
Twitter,
that
really?
much. Yeah. I found your link in your bio.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a good thing I keep it there.
That- yeah, it works. All right, next question. How has your taste in music evolved over the years?
Oh boy.
No, they're so.
Um,
I'm,
I might be able to give a short version of that. Um, my I went from when I was really young. I won't talk about anything before high school because I had already said I listened to a lot of metal, Atreyu, Breaking Benjamin, shit like that. Through high school, I listened to almost exclusively electronic music. All through high school, it was just Dead Mouse, Skrillex, all that
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah,
Noisia, and it
same.
started to just delve deeper into artists I didn't know much about. And Luke would show me some artists because he knows a lot more obscure stuff than I do. Um, and then when I got out of high school is whenever I started really I actually didn't really start watching anime, believe it or not, until I was like a senior in high school and until I actually got out of high school. Um and or maybe junior. But I started listening to a lot of Japanese music because I found that their music in general is just much more interesting. Honestly, so I just got into this rage of just listening to anime music, and for quite a few years, even going to now, I'll find new Japanese music that I'm just really blown away by. So it's kind of transformed now where I'm just listening to mainly anime music mostly these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So next question. Where are you from? You've already answered
Yeah.
this. Um, favorite track name you've ever made?
That I ever made?
Yeah, the
Oh.
favorite of your track names.
Oh, just the track name. Not like the track
Yeah,
itself, but the name.
yeah, just name. I know how hard of a question that is to answer.
I
It's
think
like completely unreasonable.
I think that if I had to pick one, probably the most obscure one that I'm glad I named and actually put out, even if people don't listen to the song, is something from Under the Sofa. I don't know if a lot of people know about that one. It's a weird one.
That's a great name though.
But I think the best name that I've had so far is actually my most recent one. That's Indigo Inferno. I was pretty proud of that one. Good name.
Yeah, it that was like because I think I missed the rest of the stream, and
Hmm.
like literally just that track name is like I have to go back and listen to this. And of course, it was really good.
Oh, I thank you.
Um, Dream collab
With me or just in general?
with you.
Um, Dream collab. I mean, probably. I would love to work with uh someone like Grant Kirkhope. He was the game composer for uh, Banjo Kazooie and Donkey Kong
Wow,
64.
that's that is an I'm trying to like imagine what that would sound like.
He's such a
Just like
cool
this,
dude.
just this super goofy, like Halloween vibe,
It would be
like
so
spooky,
good.
scary skeletons or something.
Oh yeah, but with like
That's what I'm
mid-tempo
imagining.
dubstep shit, it would be great.
Oh man, that is odd. But it sounds like it would. It's like one of the things that you would never expect to work, but it just does.
Oh yeah, I feel like it would totally work.
If you could get signed instantly to a label, which one would you pick? Or would you pick any?
Honestly, I I oh, so two come to mind. I don't my original goal was Mousetrap, but I don't know how I feel about that
Same,
much these days. Um
same.
with
That's
yeah. I'd say if I could get signed somewhere, I would really like to get signed to Bilegal Beats. That's Mr. Bill's label. Um
interesting.
and I feel like that's something I could do if I just sat down, focused and did it. Like because it's not a huge label, but Mr. Bill is such an amazing influence on electronic music production that even just being associated with him in some form or another would be more than enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Artist that has inspired you the most.
Probably Dead Mouse, just because of how much
Yeah,
active time that I have thought about his music. Um, yeah.
same. One tip for up and coming music producers that you would give. It could be like about production itself or marketing or
Okay,
whatever.
here's my answer that will apply to literally everything, okay? Is that
Okay.
when you're either developing an idea, and that can be a musical idea, it could be a branding idea, it could be anything, is that take it as a journey in your head. I know it sounds really artsy fartsy, dumb bullshit, and trust me, I'm not typically like that. I'm a very numbers kind of guy, but there is something about the creative process that is unexplainable, but works.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is be honest with yourself and ask yourself questions, and ask yourself honest questions, and be able to give yourself honest answers. Be like, is this track working? I don't think it is. Why isn't it working? And then you look at it objectively and you think, well, it's because the lead isn't loud enough. I want that lead to be screaming at me, so I need to turn it up. And that can be the life and death of a young producer's career. If you start getting bogged down with all the details and stuff, and don't give yourself a chance to ask yourself a question, then you're almost doomed to fall into a wall, as far as I'm concerned.
Man, that's very introspective. I was expecting something like, okay, no, I wasn't expecting like a be yourself or something garbage like that. But I wasn't expecting something so like specific and in depth.
Well, thank you. I think about the creative process a lot. It's like 99% of what I think about these days. Just the process.
Thinking about things, you know.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Most underrated producer that you know of.
That I know of, or that I know.
That you know of.
Okay.
Although it could be either.
Um,
If those are the same thing.
I think that an artist that I want more people to get into. It's hard because I don't listen to new music a lot. I listen to a lot of old music, or music that's been out for a while. But um I think one that
I
keeps
remember
coming
you
yeah, go ahead.
the one that you like you made a new channel, which is like GrimWax's
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
recommendations.
Ash.
Um Ash.
Yeah.
I have no, that's a whole nother story for another day. I am in his server. I have no right or reason to be in his server because it's like an exclusive one for people who are like on Mousetrap and on other like just close friends. I have no clue how I got in. Well, actually, I do, but it's just another story. It's so obscure. It was completely by accident, and now I'm not even sure how I stand with him because he's in my dead server too.
What the fuck?
He's in like my space server, which has like I'm looking at it right now. It has let's see, as far as actual people are concerned, it has 15 people, and one of them is Ash.
That's amazing. We need to get him over here, God damn it. Ash, I'm
That
calling you out. because I'm about to give you more promo.
More
Because
promo than you could possibly
yeah,
handle.
you can't even imagine the promo that's coming out of here. No, but like that's a good point though, because I think Ash is, I love his music because it's like
It's
it's
so
everything I
great.
like about Matt Lang's music, but it also feels like it has its own world to it too. Because Ash uses a lot of like Foley that is all mixed and sounds really beautiful. His like audio fidelity and audio quality of his songs are just so amazing. They're just a pleasure to listen to.
They really are. And he's also, it's interesting being in the server. I know what goes into those tracks too, because
Mm-hmm.
he'll like just say something like, hey, I'm going back into the woods for like a week. I'll see you guys in a week. And he just does that.
That's
It,
awesome.
he's very like nature oriented.
Which is really
And
awesome for an electronic
that's where
artist.
he, yeah, that's where he gets a lot of his stuff. I think inspiration is very important. Like
Mm-hmm.
for him, it's nature. For me, it's just the concept of space.
Yeah.
And like she, this is like going to turn into a mini spiel, but I really want to say this.
Yeah, go for it.
If there's one feeling that I would love to give with my music, it's awe.
Mm-hmm.
Like AWE, awe. It's something I just don't ever hear anymore. And there's the only artist that has really gotten me to feel that feeling is like Dead Mouse. With
Yeah.
and most of the tracks that do that aren't even released. Well,
Interesting.
until recently. And the concept of just being completely speechless
Mm-hmm.
and just knowing that there's something out there that is much greater than you, it's very humbling. And that's like one of my most popular songs is Look Up to the Stars. And
Yeah.
it's part of like my motto because I've struggled a lot with ego in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very important to do things like looking up at the stars, to just keep yourself in your own place, to keep yourself humble. And because whenever you're not feeling like you're so great yourself, it really helps you to like look at the world around you and see where you can actually like be helping people, even on a small scale. Like here on Discord, I've made it a point, if I can make someone's day by giving them feedback on a track and just giving them some nice words and pointing out what I genuinely enjoyed about it, if I can make their day by doing that, I'm going to do it because I know what that feels like. And it's so important because I know like there were times where I've just didn't feel like, especially early on, where I didn't want to continue music. And Multi, like of all people, Multi, which is another topic. I've
Mm-hmm.
known him for quite a while.
Multi's great.
He really is. But like he's been basically my biggest fan for a
Mm-hmm.
while now. And just if I look back at some of my privated tracks and look back at all of his comments on SoundCloud, there was a while where that was what was keeping me going. And I know how
Yeah.
important it is to like just give people that, especially if you can.
Yeah, and that's a huge, that the feedback thing. I don't want to gloss over your talk about what your music represents, because I think that was also very beautifully said. Um,
Well,
but
thank you.
you're not a problem. Your talk about feedback is probably the biggest part of what made Waxed happen. And I've said this a lot of times before, but whenever I would go to other servers looking for feedback, it just seemed like all the other channels were just focused on being like promo dumps so that people could just hop in,
Mhm.
slap their links in the self promo and dip. And it's like, where's the community in that, And whenever we started Wax and we got the first couple of you in, and we had some genuine interactions. I was like, whoa, there's something really, really, really powerful about that. Because if you look at some of those other, like, we're not that huge, but if you look at the Wax channel and compare it, the view counts and the watch time that we have on that channel compared to some of these other servers that are just huge, like thousands of people in it, but you go to their fucking channels and they have less views than we do. Like, actively. Like our videos, I
Yeah.
don't know, kind of sit around 50 to 70 more or less. Some of them pop up more than that, but like on average it stays around 50 or so. But they are lucky to have like 15 to 20 on some videos. I'm like, "Whoa, there's something really
And
wrong there."
yeah, it's sad. That's another like interesting thing as far as like how I my like server progression, like how I even got into Waxed and where I came from. Because the server I was on the most was Vivid Noise, which was Delta's server.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I knew he was like that was like the first electronic music server I ever really got into
Mhm.
was Vivid Noise. And if you look at it now, it's like a wasteland. And it's really sad to me because it used to be so there used to be such a grand like community there, especially with Delta. He was such a
Mhm.
great guy with giving this very honest feedback with people. And he was able to I've never met that many people who have been able to give genuinely critiquing feedback in such a gentle and nice way.
Yeah.
It was something he was really, really good at. But if you look at it now, like I'm looking at it right now, I'm a moderator in that server, and there's only one channel that ever gets any traction, and that's hard music sharing, and it's all by one person who is an
Oh,
admin.
that's sad.
And it really is. And I think the main reason that it happened is because no one even like knows where Delta is now. He just kind of
Yeah.
dropped off the face of the earth. I think he like said something in that server like 2 weeks ago or something, but it was just one sentence and then it was gone.
Huh.
He just completely disappeared.
It's really odd. I mean, I have my moments with going incognito for a couple of weeks
Yeah,
at a time. But I usually try to warn people or at least try to hop in every once in a while and be like, "Hey guys, I'm probably not going to be around for a little bit. Just kind of hang out."
and I remember like the times you did that, but I'm also like looking at it. The time when Waxed was really the darkest and when everything was dead, which also like congratulations, we made it past that and we are
Yeah,
bigger than we've
no,
ever
thank
been.
you because it's, this sounds cheesy and corny, but it really is everybody else. Because I could sit there, I can make shit, I can make new channels, I can make events, but if people don't participate, it's like none of it really matters. So props to all you
Yeah,
guys.
and like we're getting into the point where especially like a lot of the older people that were used to be like a huge part of the server are coming back, like
Yeah.
Zach and like Voidwalker of all people just like randomly posted a self
Yeah,
promo
yeah.
link today.
Yeah, it's weird because I haven't heard from Void in like forever, but like it's nice that even if he's slapping his links around, I'm like, sure, all right.
Yeah, as long as he's here, and you can really tell, especially VK
Yeah,
was I can't remember. I think no, I knew VK is also from Vivid Noise, and that's how I know him.
yeah, yeah.
And I think I was actually I can't remember. It might have been me that invited him to Waxed from there because I was saying, "Oh no, Vivid Noise is dying, abandoned ship," and I started grabbing everyone that I all of my friends from there, which was like VK and Delta mostly. I just grabbed all of them and like Vernesia Core, I think is still on, and
Oh yeah.
J Core Slicer
Oh,
too.
J Core, man. Yes. I haven't heard from
All of
them.
those people are from Vivid Noise.
Huh. See, I didn't know that all of you were from that specific server. I had heard from VK that VK had mentioned Vivid Noise at some point. I don't know if I've ever gone into that server or not. I mean, I'm sure I have, but I don't know if I was an active participant at any point. Um, but he had mentioned that he had come over with a couple friends. I'm like, oh, neat, cool. But I didn't know exactly who they were. But yeah, now I know. That's cool.
Yeah. And I met multi. I met multi from what is it? It's Inverted Silences Discord service. Discord service
My
called
Discord
Loudness
service.
Refuge. Loudness Refuge is where I met multi, and also from, well, actually I met him on Twitter, but then we found out we were both in this server, and I just kind of got talking to him, and then I invited him to Vivid Noise and then waxed. So
Oh,
he's probably been my, aside, well, no, because I'm not really in contact with Delta anymore. Multi has been my most consistent and long had online friend.
wow. That's some powerful shit right there.
Yeah, people don't really like give that much credit to like knowing people online versus like in real life, but
Mm-hmm.
it, you can really make some really powerful connections on here, and it's not
It's
even
so
just
true.
connections, it's friendship.
It really is because, like, I don't know, it's very hard for me to really relate to people in like my waking life because nobody in my real life gives a shit about electronic music, you know? So it's like I'm always just sitting here like, "Hey guys, I did this really cool processing on this shit." And they're like, "That's really fucking neat." I'm like, "All right." But you know, whenever you get into a thing like this where everybody's into the same thing and I mean different degrees and different levels and you know all that kind of stuff, but it's it's something is really powerful whenever you get a bunch of like-minded people to hang out together in any kind of form. And
Yeah.
things like Discord are great because you could be anywhere. And we can sit here and I can talk to you for 2.5 hours, and I don't even know where you live. So it's like, it's
Well, I'll go ahead and answer that. I live in Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, which is also,
Oklahoma.
which is also like an electronic music dead zone. So
Yeah.
I completely understand where you're coming from with the Vermont thing.
Yeah.
There's just nothing happens here. I remember we had like, it was like last year, we had Rez come to our like Cox Convention Center,
Oh shit.
and it was like, and me and like my few friends that are into electronic music just lost our shit. But then we also realized it was an 18 and up concert, and we couldn't
Ah.
go. So it's
God
just
damn. I doubt she
and
was even 18 whenever
I've
that show came around.
it was just like last year.
Oh, it was last year. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
But it's so, I mean, in like a year I'll be able to go to those, so that'll be fun. And I'll get to go to the
Dude,
wild concerts and see what those are like.
18 plus up shows, I gotta say, are way better. Just because you don't have like the annoying teenagers running around doing stupid shit. Then you could
Yeah.
just deal with the adults that do mildly dumb shit or ridiculously dumb shit that are just more fun to talk about.
Yeah. That's generally how it goes, but it's just like for the people who are just like right there, we're right there,
Oh, yeah.
and it sucks.
Oh, man. Do we have any more questions?
We have like five. We have
Okay,
five more
okay,
questions.
let's speed through them real quick.
Okay, favorite album.
Favorite album, while one is less than two. Dead Mouse.
Yes,
Yes, my dude.
that's my favorite Dead Mouse album. I think it's like my second favorite album. My favorite album is Oblivion by Crywolf.
Ooh,
It
very
is,
nice.
that is some dark,
I can get down
introspective
with some
stuff.
Crywolf.
Man, I love his stuff so much.
Okay, next question.
Um, ever had any pets?
Oh god, I've had so many fucking pets, dude. Oh my god. Personally, our family has always had a lot of pets. We used to raise Rottweilers and Dobermans, um, and
Wow.
and we've also raised pit bulls and all sorts of dogs. Right now, I have a cat. Her name is Rei, Rei, named after Sailor Mars from Sailor Moon. Um, and she's awesome. She has an attitude problem, but she's really nice to me, so it doesn't matter. Um, I've
It's
also
always bad. It's always great with cats whenever they're mean to everyone but you.
oh yeah, it's fantastic. My other favorite animal that I've ever had was my last dog that I had. Her name was Gracie, and she was a pit bull wiener dog mix. And God, she was the most
Wow.
adorable thing on the planet. She was strong, but she was really short and stubby. But she had a really pretty face. She had gray eyes. Oh my God, she was the most gorgeous dog I've ever had. I
That
had to end up
is an
giving her away
interesting
though.
combination.
Yeah, I don't know how it happened. The mother was the pit bull. If you're curious, the father. This is actually kind of a funny little bit, but the father we knew was this stray wiener dog that was in our neighborhood, and we lived on a dirt road, and we'd call him Ricky Rocket because when you would see him, you couldn't get close to him before you start bolting off, and he'd start running down the road, and he had kind of the black and brown coloration, sort of similar to like a Rottweiler coloration, and
Yeah.
he would sprint down the road, and all you see was like this little wiener with like this puff of smoke behind it, and he just looked like a rocket. So we call him Ricky Rocket, and we're 99% sure it was him. We just had our dog out, and overnight he just came over and just did the deed, and we had a litter of wiener dog pit bulls.
That is odd, but like I guess it works because you never like think about that,
Oh
like that
no.
combination.
You better believe we were awfully surprised when we saw the puppies. Just because we had no idea. We had no idea while she was pregnant. She just got pregnant one day, and we were like, "Oh God, what happened?" And then we didn't know until we saw the puppies, and we saw how fucking weird they were. We're like, "These are wiener dogs." There's only one wiener dog we know that could commit this crime
Oh
against
man,
nature. But yeah, that's my pet story.
I'm gonna I'll tell you my pet
Okay.
because it's interesting. I have a dog and a cat. My dog's name is Eggnog because we got him for Christmas, and he is a combination between a golden retriever and a Great Pyrenees.
Oh man, I bet
He
that's
is
really really
he
cool.
is huge. He is so nice though. Like he's the type
That's
of
the
dog that
best.
he's so big though. If he sees you, he will come up and he will give you a hug.
Aww.
He's like, especially like friends that I've brought over, he will literally just stand up and be as tall as them and just lick them in the face.
Oh.
And he is so nice. And I have a cat and he's a tabby and his name is Nutmeg. So we have Eggnog and Nutmeg.
Oh man, that's perfect.
And I
Got
named
yin
both
and
of them.
yang.
And they're both friends, quote
Oh,
unquote
that
friends.
see,
They're
it's great when they get
competitors for
along.
attention. They don't kill each other. And the cat bullies the dog, who is very sensitive.
Oh, God, that's adorable.
They really are. All right, next
Oh,
question.
yes.
Do you have any medical or psychological conditions or disorders that you would be comfortable sharing and have having them impacted your music in any way?
Read me a disclosure for a second.
And
So
there's
whenever I'm answering questions like this, I don't have things that I think are like, I don't actively think have like secrets. Like I don't like somebody has to do is ask me a question. Like I don't really have secrets. Um, but I'm sure I have a lot of health issues, but I haven't seen a doctor in a very, very, very long time. I have gone to therapy before, and I think that therapy is a very, very helpful resource, because especially when you're a teenager, because God, you think you know things, but holy shit, you really don't. That is something I have learned going through life, is that wow, I
Yeah,
thought I knew things, but holy shit, I do not.
and
Um,
that's interesting because like for those of you who don't know, hi, I'm Saw, and I'm 17, and
you think
I
you know
am,
things, Saw.
but I've also like for a while I've had the philosophy of like you don't you don't know what you don't know.
Right,
So
exactly.
until you're proved other, basically all I know is that I know nothing and that everything that I think I know could be wrong. So I take everything with a grain of salt, and what little wisdom I do have, I like try and test constantly to make sure I really am right with this.
I feel that.
But
I
I
feel that.
do consider myself, even though I am a teenager and it does sound cliche, I do consider myself to be a pretty, like, not knowledgeable, but like, I'm not stupid. I don't,
Mhm.
I'm not the type of person that like, goes out and like does like super dumb stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I could, just talking, you can tell you have like you have your sense about you. There are some kids your age that just are in a very different place in their head, and
Yeah.
and sometimes it feels like they're behind you, but they're not. They're
It's,
in a
yeah.
different realm in their head, and that was a big thing I had to learn whenever I had to deal with the real world, is because I had a big pride issue where
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of come off as an asshole because I just always sound like I just know everything, or I'll just try to contradict
I
everything
just,
people say.
I just was an asshole. That's just how it was.
Yeah, it's a weird thing growing up. It is a weird thing, but I think a lot of people, that deal with music or are creators in a sense, have this kind of creators complex that is very stressful, because it's very, very, very stressful to want to create things but feel like you're unable to, for whatever
Yeah.
reason. Either it's a mental block, or you feel like it's a lack of knowledge or time, whatever it is. You feel like your life just isn't in control if you can't be making. That's at least how it is for me. If I'm not, I'm in my best
That's,
mood whenever I'm making music I like.
yeah, that translates almost like word for word for me.
Yeah. I think a lot of creators feel that way. Okay, yes. I
Okay,
feel like we've gone through that question, I think.
last two.
Okay.
Most important life lesson you've learned.
We've talked about a lot of life lessons on this episode.
We
Um
really have.
I think the most important life lesson that I have ever learned is I'm gonna say probably what my mom would say would be, no matter what it is that you're doing, just make sure that you're doing it for yourself, because it's you can get put it's really easy in life for you to get pushed in certain directions, but you have to have a vision in your head of where you want to be, and understands that in order for you to get there, that you're going to have to resist a lot of things in order to keep you going down the path to your vision or what you want. And I feel like it's really easy for people to set up like, like a goal board or something like that, and then feel like that they've done their job, but that's just where it starts, because it's going to come down later on the road whenever it's like, all right, I'm going to make a living making music. So I'm going to dedicate all my time to making sample packs, writing songs, doing all this, and then you don't sell any. And then you're thinking, well, shit,
Yeah.
what went wrong? And then you realize, and then you slowly start to realize what it's actually going to take to get what you want, or what you
Mhm.
originally thought you wanted. And sometimes going down your little trail will lead you to realizing that your original goal wasn't really what you wanted. And you have to be okay with changing that.
Yeah.
Because if you just say, well, that's what I originally wanted, so even though this is shady, like whatever, like you can't do that. Like you have to stay honest, and you have to be able to trust what you want enough in order to resist the things that want to pull you away from that. I think that that'll be my inspirational speech for the day.
Well said. Well said.
Oh, I thank you.
And now we have the last one and possibly the most relevant one,
Okay.
which is if we keep growing at this rate, where do you see Waxed in a year?
So recently I had actually dug up. I went into the BIOS of or the of Discord and found the date that the server was made. It's an October 7th or 17th or something like that from 2017. Or October
Oh
7th,
wow.
something like
I
that.
didn't realize it was that old.
Me fucking either. But I was sitting around and I was thinking like, God, how many Halloween mixes are we getting ready to do by now? Because we always do a Halloween mix. So I was like, holy shit, how many are we about to do now? I'm like, we're coming up on the third or fourth one or something like that. And then I was thinking, well,
Really?
God, like
I
how many
thought I was at
years?
the first one.
Well, maybe you
That's
were. I'm
weird.
not sure, but it's I'm hoping. My hope is that in a year we can get waxed to a point where I can really start having it be a place for us to put out music and not have to worry about labels. Like that's my ultimate goal. It gets really, really difficult though. Um, I'll say that much because it's I'm not trying to be whatever with anything, but it it takes a lot of mental effort out of me to try to think about what to do next with Wax, because we have a really, really strong small following right now. Like we
Mhm.
are, the people we have are fantastic. I love everybody that's here right now. And not that I want to necessarily grow bigger. I just want our quality of life here to be better. Like I just want,
Yeah.
like eventually I would like to make Waxed legally a label, but not work it like one. I would rather it be more like, if people wanted to get their music onto Spotify really easily, then I could do that for them. Or if they wanted to get a hold of some artists to do art for them, then I can do that for them. Essentially, just trying to be like the support beam so that if an artist needs help with something, then I have the resources to help them. Is like
Yeah.
my vision for it, at least, because it gets really tough trying to do everything for free. And
It really does, and that was something I actually wanted to ask you after this. Is the idea of where does exclusivity play into this? Because right now, especially with the jams, and this is a hard question to ask, and I know it's going to be a hard question to answer. But with the way we've been doing the jams,
mm-hmm.
everything is accepted. So, and every time we do one, we're gaining a couple of Discord members.
Yeah.
And and like what I really agree with what you said with not wanting to grow bigger necessarily, but wanting our quality of life to be better,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what happened with Vivid Noise. Is
Yeah.
all of the old people stopped when all of the new people came in. All of the new people came in and were really, really active for like a really short amount of time and scared all of the old people off. And then whenever all the new people stopped talking, there was just nothing.
Nothing.
It was
Yeah,
radio silence.
we had a short period on Waxed where we were starting to get a lot more people, and I forget exactly when this was, but I remember it happening because I was like, we're growing really fast, but we're getting a lot less interactions. And
Exactly.
that it was after that had happened whenever the server just really died down. And I almost did it passively because I knew the direction it was going in, and it was kind of hurting me to think that that's what it would end up being. So the great thing about me going and just not doing anything for a couple of weeks at a time was that all those passive people would just leave. And then I knew that the core group would always be there. So that if anything else, at the end of the day, I could come back a month or two later after not doing anything, and I'll know that you're going to be there. I know that VK is going to be there. I know Luke's going to be there. I know Jake's going to be there. Like, I know that there's certain people in it that I know are going to be there. And that's a really, really, really powerful thing. And
Yeah.
that
It's the
is what
power of
makes the
community.
difference. Yeah. And if we can get more committed people in, like oh, what's the new guy's name? Like Freak
Which
something?
one?
The
I
pirate
Freak Show
guy.
Willow.
Yeah, the
Freak Show
pirate
Willow.
guy.
I have. I'm gonna be honest, okay, because this is like a super niche thing about me, is like text styles and like the way people talk through text.
Hmm.
I've never seen someone so confusing to me than the way he types. It's
I know. And here's the
it's
thing,
like a
right?
mixture of like pirate, like a British accent. Like he says "oi" and "a," and it's so interesting because anytime he ever says anything, I always take the time to read it just because of how
Yes.
it's such a roller coaster.
It really is. I love the way he types. It's such you could tell I could read it in like a pirate voice, and I'm like, this guy is like
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if he's doing it on purpose or if like this is just how he is, but like he's so on brand, it's not even funny. It's so good. I
And
love him.
and like him and Keebler. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
remember which
yeah.
one it was.
Keebler, yeah.
Yeah, and he's now in here, and he like did a face reveal too. Whenever I
Yeah.
did mine,
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
we're like the new guys, they're showing like a lot of like the same qualities, and they're still as strong, but it's also not scaring the old people away either.
Right.
We're just adding to the community,
Yeah. It's
and
really
that's
nice.
it's what's been like really promising about this whole new era that we're in right now is things are going very well.
It really is. I'm really glad with the direction we're in right now. And I've really, one of my biggest like half regrets with Waxed was the accountability project because I had such high
uh
hopes for it. I had planned so much for that. You have no idea how much documentation I had made for that. But
I could tell that you put so much in it because you had all these different, they weren't documents, you didn't even place the text, they were images with text. It's like people only do images with text whenever they're like on Twitter and they're like saying goodbye or something.
yeah.
It's like super serious. It's like, whoa, he is really, really going into this. And I really wanted to do it too.
Yeah.
It's just
The
I
thing is that what I wanted to get out of that didn't need to be as complicated as I had made it. All that I wanted out of that accountability project was to get people to be active. And these jams have been doing just that. It's been beautiful. You know, it's you know, they work, it's not committing them to a really strict deadline because that's really hard to do whenever we're all fucking, you know,
Mhm.
working for free and shit like that. But, you know, if you have stuff and you're ready to share it, then just throw it in, you know? And
Mhm.
that's that kind of convenience, and that it's easy, and that it's something that isn't restrictive either. Like the jams, there's no monetization on it. And thank oh my god. So I have to make a mention of this because somebody, I forget who it was, had hit me up whenever I initially made the Patreon for Wax. By the way, Wax has a Patreon. Um, um,
Yeah.
but um, they had said I had accidentally put in. I had made a huge bullet list of perks for the thing for the patron things, and there were some that I had thrown in there but I had taken off because I'm like, that isn't going to work, or these legally would be too complicated. And I had accidentally, when I launched the page, kept the
Oh no.
high quality jam files one in there, and I was like, that's not
Oh.
gonna happen. So thank god. I think it was Panbat, I think, had told me. He was like, hey, are you aware that this is how it is? I don't want to step on your parade, but I was like, oh no, that's definitely not supposed to be there. But I just wanted to address that publicly in case you guys hear this and you wanted to know what that situation was about. It was totally not supposed to be there because I don't want the jams to seem like it's something that is that I'm trying to rack in money with, because it's
Yeah.
just not. It wouldn't make that much money anyways, but like
Yeah.
it's more about the idea that if it was if it was set up to be monetized in any kind of way, then legally that would just make an absurd amount of issues that I don't want to deal with. So
Mhm.
that's the great thing about the jams, is that none of it's monetized. It's no ads or anything. It just music plays for like 45 minutes to an hour. And
Mhm. But like that was another thing is eventually, because and this is something I'm very proud of Waxed for doing, is we've handled growth very
yeah,
well. As most servers, there's it's like, you know what the great filter is?
the great filter.
It's like a concept with like the idea of, if there's aliens, like it's a concept that tries to explain why there isn't any aliens.
Okay.
And the idea is there's no aliens because there's a point in a civilization where something happens where they kill themselves off, like nuclear war, or they destroy their own climate. And the concept is there's no aliens around us is because all of them have already wiped themselves out and we're the only ones left.
Oh
And
God.
the filter is coming up to us, and we don't know what it is or whether or not we're going to pass it.
Oh man, that's some scary shit.
Yeah, it is. But like I've noticed with music servers, there's a great filter, which is the
Totally.
boom. Whenever they get a bunch of people and how they handle those people.
Yeah. That's
Because
something
there's
we definitely handle that extremely different here. Um, because we're not big on, I mean, we're called Wax Promo, but we focus more on artist development than on promotion necessarily. You know, we're more about building ourselves up, either creatively, technically, or whatever that is, brand wise, as opposed to just straight up trying to get you views, you know?
yeah.
And that only appeals to people who want to put in that work, which are people who are really dedicated, you know? And
Hmm.
that's kind of the mindset for how I, you know, kind of deal with how Wax grows right now, and I plan on trying to keep it that way as much as I can.
Yeah. And it's gonna be hard because, like I'm saying, we're going to rake in new people
Mm-hmm.
with every single like jam. That's how
Oh
it's
yeah.
gonna work. Because every time we do it, everyone who's in it is going to promote it in other servers. I've done it. I know Pan, no, not Pan Pat. Tin Man's done it. Multi
Mm.
does it. Because we all care about this so much, and we want more people to see all of our stuff we've worked on.
That's so sweet. You guys are so fucking sweet.
Well, we've burned through all of our questions. Do
Holy
we have
shit.
like an Do we have like an outro? It's been like 3 hours.
Hold on, I figured out I can actually tell how long we've been recording. Okay. We have been recording for 3 hours, 1 minute, and 7 seconds. Congratulations, us. Now I'll
Yeah.
really figure out how long a YouTube video can be.
I don't know. There's the 10-hour YouTube videos.
Do you have to have a certain, like,
I don't
some,
think so.
well, I'll figure it out for sure.
The
I
only the
might have
only
to
the
cut it
only
down.
difference the only difference I think is just like how long it takes to upload.
Yeah.
That's
Which is
that's
probably
the
gonna be
main
a real
distinction.
fucking long time. I mean,
So
there's probably not gonna be much moving
just
visuals or
just so
anything.
you guys know, for my time zone, this was recorded at 8:57 p.m. on a Monday. It's 4/6/2020.
It is
Just
holy shit, it's late over here. God damn, it's 10
uh,
o'clock.
oh wow.
I'm like, where did the day go? I mean,
Oh
I'm not
man.
complaining because I wasn't doing shit anyways, but
Yep.
wow. Well, thank you, Saw, for hosting this
I'm
interview.
not really sure who hosted who, but
Well, I mean, all the questions
it's
were aimed at me, so I'm gonna just assume that you're kind of hosting.
yeah.
Well, kind of, because I mean, I am the admin, but you're asking the questions.
It's like
I
a
don't
weird duo
know.
thing,
It's
but
it's how we do things, I guess.
it's been really fun. I need to eat dinner now. I
Yeah.
am hungry.
Yeah. Oh my
I
god.
ran out. I ran out of water at like an hour and a half in, and I was
Oh
too scared
god.
to get up and get more.
Oh my god. All right, but so I'm definitely going to have to cut some of this up. But
Yeah,
um for those of you who have made it all the way through this video, number one, congratulations. If you hit
well done.
We had a challenge earlier where you had to name your favorite video game and spell it backwards. But if you made it this far, because that was like an hour and a half ago, if you made it to the end, then you need to write then copy paste as much of the Wikipedia article of a random Wikipedia article on a Renaissance artist that you could find.
Just post the cock and ball torture Wikipedia article,
Yeah. Just copy as much of a Wikipedia article and put it into the comments. That'll be your challenge if you've made it this far.
and then DM either Grim or me on Discord
Yeah.
for a special personalized thing in the form of like one sentence of text.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Oh
it's
man.
been good.
It's been good,
I'll see you
Saw.
later.
I'll see ya.
All right.
All right.
Signing
Peace.
off.
Signing
See ya.
off. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Holy shit. Oh god.